Welcome to the newest episode of A Better Conversation, a podcast put on by A Better Dallas, where we try to talk about Texas politics, a little bit of national politics, and maybe some of the grassroots action that's going on. As always, my name is Chris Clement, your host, president of A Better Dallas, joined by the producer, Mr. Kyle Mason.
What is up? Excited to be back. Tuesday, like we promised.
That's right. Consistently recording on Tuesdays, releasing on Wednesdays. And we are joined with a special guest tonight, Miss Deborah Arnett, who not only, as you will find out, is a superstar Republican, active, grassroots person, making everything happen, working campaigns, answering calls at the county party offices. She does it all. But also, she was a founder of A Better Dallas. So she's been in this thing since the beginning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah. Well, so tonight, obviously, look, big news this week, inauguration. January 20th happened. It came and went. Carrie Underwood sang a cappella.
It was great.
People crammed into the Capitol. Lots of conspiracy theories on that one. But I just wanted to kind of start off by talking with you both about your thoughts of the inauguration and sort of how it's got you feeling right now.
You know, we all waited for the inauguration to happen. How's it going to go? Then when they were talking about the weather, and someone I know went to the inauguration, and they got there and they were looking for long underwear to buy because it was going to be so cold, and it was all sold out. So I think a lot of people were caught short by the weather, even though it's winter. So I'm glad that it managed. You know, if the problems that they had were you're going to have to watch it from a TV outside instead of from a TV on the other side of the wall because you're not in the main room, okay. People were planning to go, do you have tickets? Do you have tickets? Do you know anybody with a ticket? No. Oh my gosh, where can I get a ticket? So it was exciting. I think the build-up brings people together.
Did you get a chance to watch the address?
I did watch the hour before. I watched some of the address, and did he get a different speechwriter, Trump? Did he have a different speechwriter?
It must have been, yeah.
It kind of sounded like he didn't have a speechwriter, the parts that I listened to. And I'm not saying that in any sort of like derogatory sense, but it definitely sounded more like Trump riffing, like Trump off the cuff, than necessarily when he has that prepared speech and all that sort of thing.
I thought the tone was a little drier than I would have liked it. I was ready, let's go. So I wanted to charge somewhere, and it was just a little drier than I had anticipated.
It was definitely different than American Carnage. Very, very different. And I thought the same thing, too. I was like, not the Trump that I remember coming in 2017, but I kind of think it was good in a way. Just definitely set a different tone. I don't think American Carnage 2.0 would have hit very well. He made his point.
He did.
He's like, hey, last 4 years have sucked. Everyone knows it.
And he did kind of drive that point.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Is he really most of the clips that I've seen of it, and I haven't got a chance to watch the whole thing, it's very attacking.
Right.
He's going after the other side. And there's a time and a place for that. Man, I want optimism, right? Like, I want Reagan's It's Morning in America, I tell you what, I wish that Trump's inauguration speech was closer to the acceptance speech that he had on election night, where he talked about the return of American greatness, and he talked about all of these great people he was going to be working with and all the improvements they were going to be making.
Right.
Like, I missed a little bit of that.
The golden age. Let's go. Let's talk about the golden age.
Right.
How is it going to be golden? Not all the problems we have. We've heard about the problems. We've been dealing with the problems. We've heard all the arguing about the problems. Let's hear about the golden age.
And I guess I did. One of the things I liked early on in the speech is he talked about putting America first. Right.
Excellent.
That was honestly like the very first thing that I remember about his inaugural address.
That builds hope.
Right. Which is, we talked a little bit about, before the show about some of his executive orders. Mm-hmm. I kind of think his executive orders are very much in that theme of America first.
Pulling it back towards us.
Kyle, what about you? Do you have any other thoughts about how Trump kicked off the kicked off the new term with the inauguration?
I was surprised it was only 29 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
My son was coming by the TV and he's like, "Are you still watching this guy?" And he was just finishing up, and I was like, "Bro, he ain't even talked that long." Because he could have gone on 70, he could have gone on 80 minutes, about anything and everything. But I think he stuck to a script. He read it, and he walked away, and it was just great.
I think that Carrie Underwood needs a crazy amount of credit.
Yes.
Acapella.
Yeah.
So
And people in the crowd singing with her.
right, to have for those that aren't aware, during the inauguration, Carrie Underwood was going to sing "God Bless America." The music didn't work. Right, they were having to shift around the music, the audio, that sort of stuff wasn't working.
Right.
And she just basically, in the video you can watch it, she just sort of mouthed, "I can just sing it."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a fan of musicians that actually have talent, unlike what I think a lot of our TikTok famous musicians are like. And I love the fact that Carrie Underwood could just be like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll just do it a cappella," and it sounded great.
So what if our politicians had the same confidence and ability that Carrie has in her skill set?
I wonder how many of them in the room could sing "God Bless America" without the words.
Right.
It would be, even for me, I've been at, I don't know how many ceremonies, like for flag and stuff. I'm like, I don't really know those words. I was surprised when other people started singing along. I mean, that was good.
She did have an earbud, so maybe she did have if someone else is singing, I can remember the words.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it on my own, it is more difficult.
Yeah, there was no delay. She was ready.
There was no delay.
She was ready to rock and roll. I don't know.
I think she does know him.
I mean, it's a 60-second. It's not a long song.
That's true.
She wasn't singing. I think that there's the longer version with more verses. You're just doing first verse, basic "God Bless America." So
It's perfect.
she did a great job with that. Other takeaways from the inauguration.
One thing I do want to say, I saw a bunch of stuff going all over the internet about Trump not swearing in on his Bible.
Yeah.
Oh
And that
my
was because
gosh.
Robert Justice, that was who swore him in, right?
Sorry, Chief Justice John Roberts.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And he had sworn in Obama, right?
Right.
Anyways, he started, and Melania didn't have a chance to get over there, and so
She's
there's a
holding
bunch
the Bibles over there.
there's a
instead
bunch
here.
of people that, all the conspiracy
But
theories
in
and everything. Like,
every ceremony,
up.
something goes awry. So,
Right.
if that's the thing,
Right.
okay. Melania was holding the Bibles. He was swearing. It's just ceremonial. It's not like something happens.
Correct. Yeah, I think you're just required to raise your hand to take the oath.
Right.
yeah,
All the little flubs that happened.
yeah.
Music.
Like the music with Carrie Underwood and with, I don't know. To me, it's hard to say, really, you couldn't have had it outside. I know it's cold, but was the weather so bad that you couldn't have been outside?
I'm kind of glad they had it inside.
I think there's a lot of people who are elderly, Biden, who would have been standing in the cold
True.
way too long.
That's true.
And-
what is it, William? Was it William? Who was it that? Which American president was it that died because he gave too long of an inaugural address and
Got pneumonia. Got pneumonia and died.
I have no idea. That's
We'll have to
so
check
sad.
that. But you can really, when you're cold beyond an hour, seriously cold, and you're standing still. As someone who works outside in the morning, including today, yesterday, and the day before, here in Dallas, it was cold.
Yeah.
I can attest that fingers go numb. It's harder to breathe when the air is super cold. So I thought it was a wise decision. They used to have the inauguration in March.
Right.
So they moved it to January. They know it's a possibility.
So, by the way, it was William Henry Harrison.
Henry Harrison. Okay.
That sucks to have your speech so long. You didn't wear a coat, and he dies shortly after. Man,
the male ego.
Yes.
Kyle? Are you telling me you've never gone outside without a jacket or pants on when it's cold and just been like, I'm fine?
Maybe
I'm
once.
alright.
Maybe once to take. I was never that guy in high school that wore the shorts when it was super cold. I was always have a jacket, have a smaller one for the classroom. I was always bundled up.
Well
but
prepared.
Oh,
Yeah.
not
Okay.
me. I was that guy.
It's not even cold, bro.
It's not. What do y'all? We're inside most of the time. It's not a big deal. I was that guy entirely.
It's
That
true.
sounds like William Henry Harrison kind of had the same sort of thing. So, an entertaining thing. So this is always one of my favorite things when we have all these like large events and things along those lines. Are the people that steal the show accidentally.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's 3 people that for me online have stolen the show. 4 actually.
Okay.
One is Melania for her
The
outfit
hat.
and the hat.
Yes, loved it.
Great outfit.
And if you've never tried
Was
to
a
kiss
little-
somebody with a hat to here and it comes out, it is hard to kiss somebody underneath that. You have to work at it.
I'm usually the kisser with
Yes.
the hat on, not the other word kissy. However it would work.
Yes.
But she looked a little bit like Carmen Sandiego to me. I don't know. I don't know if y'all remember that with the big hat. That was initially the first thing I thought of. Super elegant.
Yes.
Like all the women in my life are like I'm totally. They're all excited about Melania and her fashion for the next 4 years.
yeah.
So the second one was JD Vance's daughter.
Oh,
When being held there with like the stuff on her fingers. I don't know if y'all saw that.
The Band-Aids.
Yeah, stinking adorable. Like that's the sort of stuff that I love about JD Vance. Is that's just, and then his wife standing there like looking at him, glowing.
adoringly.
Right.
Oh
That-
my gosh.
Yeah.
That is-
She likes that man.
That is such a human thing, right? Like how
If we
relatable
all
is that?
could be so proud of somebody, not just for being vice president, but for being who you are, and just having someone look at you like that.
Right.
Well-
I appreciate everything you do. I applaud you, support you. Let's go.
Well, to be fair, Chris, I look at you like that after I have a
Aw.
few drinks.
Oh my gosh.
That's after you drink so.
We're gonna be watching you. Okay.
Well, no, I just like, I think that's something. I think if a lot of Americans put themselves in her position,
Right.
Your husband, your wife, whatever, is getting sworn in as the vice president. I think most people would be looking at their spouse that way.
Right.
It's just these like cold-hardened political people that are posing or they're doing whatever and they're not having like an authentic reaction. I
Right.
think that was the thing about like her and their daughter that I think captured so many people's attention is it was just such a human reaction.
Well, in real people, there is, she had to put the daughter down after she got a little
Mm-hmm.
squiggly. And good, she recognized instead of correcting her or expecting her to be still at that age,
She's sweet.
just put her down.
Just go run along. Run along. And
You're fine.
she kind of ran back to some of the other kids,
the
which
nanny
is
was there or something like
Yeah.
that.
which
Yeah.
is great. Who
What's
else
your
stole the
third
show?
thing?
Huh?
Who else stole the show?
So in memes on the internet, George W. Bush absolutely stole the show.
Oh, no.
I
His
have
facial
seen-
expressions.
Oh my gosh, I have seen so many memes of him, all the way from like, was this guy taking edibles before he went up on stage? What did he have to drink before he, was on
probably is on
Hey,
stage?
can we all
amount of
have some of
drugs.
that?
Yeah, exactly, to things like, like, oh, when you have that inside joke with your best friend or something. I mean, it was just
Right.
so many memes about Bush.
Now, quick question. Y'all might know this. The setup, obviously, you had Trump's side, but like on the other side, is that exclusively invites from the Clinton family, or was that like, is that usually the outgoing president and the ex-presidents?
I'm not sure.
Because Bush was on
Right.
Clinton's side, or
Yes,
Biden's
yes.
side.
And yes. And Obama and yeah.
Right. Usually they do put the presidents together, I think. The presidents and their first ladies are together, and then the vice presidents and their
yeah.
second lady. I don't know, what is it you call the vice president's wife. But they usually have them all.
Oh, it was
up
so
there.
rich that Hillary Clinton had to sit there again. She had to sit there again and watch this guy get sworn in.
Wow.
It's just like, oh man, that must really suck. But are you about to say your fourth one is Mark?
No, my fourth one was JD Vance's wife and his daughter.
Okay.
But who do you?
I'm not trying to be a one-upper, but I think Mark Zuckerberg, looking
Oh.
down that girl's shirt.
Oh, why
would
did she wear
definitely-
that?
Oh,
That's the first
yeah,
thing I noticed.
that- okay.
My eye was drawn.
Yes.
I'm like, no.
Why
don't-
did she
no.
wear that?
Who let you out of the house like that?
Wearing like the bra
my
with the
God.
jacket lady.
The feminists are not going to be
No.
happy with you. You're
Not-
blaming her?
Not at this occasion.
You're blaming
Dad.
her?
And that was a girlfriend, not a wife, right?
No, that was not his girlfriend. That was, I think it was a tech. She's a tech chick, right?
I don't
Okay,
know.
we're gonna have to check that.
No, but I know his wife is Asian, and I remember
Okay.
thinking she's gonna already have seen that by the time he goes backstage when they get ready for the ball. She's
and
like,
if you didn't look, you're not alive.
Babe, I just noticed it. I
just
wasn't
noticed
staring.
it.
I was just like, can you believe she's
Right.
wearing this? That's what I was
Right.
thinking.
He was
I
And
like,
Zuckerberg was
so
wear a
drunk.
turtleneck.
He's like, he
That's so bad.
looked and looked away because he knew. Don't be staring.
No, now that you're bringing up the tech bros, I guess the other person that got a lot of media buzz is Elon for his interesting
Salute.
hand movements on stage.
Gesture, salute.
his throwing his heart out.
was that what that was?
That has very much annoyed me today.
Going to Mars.
Going to Mars was a really big announcement. I think that's really cool. But no, I guess we'll jump on that one. So after the inauguration, they have the parade, and then they go to the whatever stadium that was. Elon being eccentric, we've all seen him jump around. He jumps like never played basketball before. Right? He's like it's really not that
He's
elegant.
electric, yes.
Yeah. Anyways, in his speech, he
We're not doing the gesture.
grabs his heart,
We're not
throws it
doing the
out.
gesture. We're
Grabs
not
heart.
doing the gesture.
throws it out, and then he turns around and does it again, and then he walks right up to the mic. He's like, "I'm throwing my heart out to you guys."
Oh,
Like those were his words.
Right.
And so I'm like,
okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You can't do that when you're on that level of stage. Right? I mean, I understand that he's eccentric. I understand that he wasn't doing a Nazi salute.
Right.
But at the same time, you just can't do that. Like, this is the sort of stuff with politics where it's just like, I think with Trump we forget, because with Trump he just does whatever and it just doesn't matter, right? Teflon Don, that's always been how he is.
Sure.
I remember when Rick Perry was gonna be the next president of the United States of America.
Me too.
And then he had a brain fart on stage and couldn't remember the agencies and the departments that he was going to shut down, and that killed him.
Yeah,
And-
that was bad.
But when you think about it, it's like, well, that's a really dumb thing to kill his campaign. Like, does he have the? I mean, obviously he has the idea.
Yeah.
He knows what it is. He just had a momentary lapse under pressure. But when you're on the national stage, like, that's what's expected.
It counts.
And that's the thing with Elon is like, man, you just can't make that mistake.
There's been plenty of, I would say, don't make the gesture. Like,
Right.
pick something else. But just at a moment of excitement and like throwing his, I mean, I guess he could have gone like that, right? But he's got a big crowd. The crowd is full. So many people throwing it out. But there's plenty of photos, and that's what all the memes are going around today. We got Obama doing the same thing at the right angle. We got Hillary Clinton. We got George Bush. We had, just go all the way to Bill Clinton.
Yeah, we have that of them with the hand up at that angle, but we don't have is them starting down from their heart and going up on it. Now, I will say, I don't know if it's still the way, if it's still that way up there, but I went to UNT, and we had a very similar gesture as our fight song, right? It is you make the mean green claw, go mean green Eagles, you take it to your heart, and I'm not going to complete it, but you put it up at a 45-degree angle. And it was always very weird at a major sporting event when
Yeah,
we're singing
everybody
the
doing
school
it.
song and there is a coliseum or a stadium full of people
gosh.
repeatedly making that gesture. I don't know if it's still the case, but
Well, that's
Well,
this, I mean, here's the thing though, is like there was nothing serious, like there was no serious problems with the inauguration. Right. There wasn't an assassination attempt. You didn't have anybody
Thank you.
being a disruptor.
thank you.
You have all of these weird little things that happened, which is just kind of fun.
Okay.
DC didn't burn either this
No.
time
True.
around. That was
No.
nice.
And another pleasant thing, Barron Trump.
Oh, I wonder what he said to Obama. To
We're
Biden.
all wondering what the lip readers are going to
Yeah.
say that he said. Like, what was that? But I think it's probably just something very polite.
No.
No? You think he said something...
When he walked away over to his mother, kind of went like this, and then I know he said something shitty to him because he went back and looked for a reaction. He looked right back at Biden, and he wanted to get... That's what shows he's still young. He went back and just tried to look back for that reaction.
So
To
Biden's-
me, that's what it says.
Biden's face before was that thin, pinched lip. He smiled while Barron was talking to him and then went back to the same expression that he'd had before Barron spoke to him. So I think, I don't know that it was anything more than just social conversation.
It could be to keep me excited about this whole thing. I'm gonna say he said we're gonna come for your entire family or something like that.
Yeah.
Like those pardons aren't gonna save you.
You thought you pardoned your family. We'll see you.
You didn't pardon yourself.
I hope he said something like, "Thanks for the election,"
Or
"Thanks
something cute.
for the win," or something like that.
Something cute like that. Yeah, nothing threatening, but
We'll see.
I feel like the way that he kind of uncomfortably scurried away, because for his age, being a college student, he is very he has his posture, his stride, he's very, but like in that quick moment he was a little shuffly, his head was a little like on a swivel.
Swivelly, okay.
Kind of like you would be like, just like right after or right before, if you're gonna get in a fight or you said something pretty nasty to someone, you kind of get a little jittery. That's my take on it.
Well,
I might be looking into that too much because I like drama.
I'm going to go for polite.
Kyle, you are now the official Barron Trump whisperer.
Oh, the emperor is Will Rise. I'm sure he is. I'm sure that man has a plan in mind for politics in the near future.
He looks like a villain.
Yes, he does.
100% looks like a villain in a movie. Like just the way he dresses, his mannerisms, the looks on his face, all that sort of stuff. And I know he's like an awkward, 19-year-old kid. But yeah, man, we're gonna have to find a way because that's the problem, that like the other Trump boys look like used car salesmen, so not as threatening. But like, if somebody has a plan for world domination, it looks like it would be Barron.
And he's 6'9".
Yeah.
So he looks down
It
on
is just
everybody.
wild how tall he is.
That's
Yeah.
right. But when they were clapping and he went like this, I thought, oh, some personality.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
So I know I disagreed with you on him being a villain, but I actually took a different. I think he's more like Batman. Like he's kind of grown up in this world where his father has been persecuted, prosecuted, persecuted. His home has been raided. His family has been, attacked on every level.
Shot at.
Shot. His father has been, many assassination attempts and probably more. And he's probably received threats himself, as all like members of Congress and their families do. But
that sounds like a Village's origin story.
Well, but I think it could morph more into like he's Batman and the villain is the Swamp.
Well, we're gonna have to see if he starts taking like martial arts or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he already has.
The crime fighting.
Well,
Okay.
he can afford a badass car.
Okay.
Probably.
So he's already
Yeah.
halfway there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Batcave. They've got that in the bank.
Hell yeah.
So, all right. Well, I want to move forward from the inauguration, as much fun as it is, to kind of talk about the other big thing that happened on the 20th, and that was all of the Trump executive orders.
When did he start signing them? Seconds later.
Yes.
Seemed like
very, very quickly.
a stack on the desk. Here we go.
He gave a very entertaining press conference as he was signing everything.
Now, what's this one?
It was sort of honestly like his desk was just so full of these
Yes,
things.
and he's asking, and the man that was telling him seemed to really know. I'm like, good. Somebody knows exactly how many of the 1,500 J6 people are on the list, and which ones are they? Is this people that are being commuted? Are they being pardoned? How's this going? And the guy knew. I'm like, wow, good.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Yes. Well, I'm just going to sign it. I don't care what this is.
So for either one of you, were there any of these executive orders that excite you, that you were waiting for some action to be taken, and here it is?
Yeah. Well, one, I liked how he started signing at the end of the parade inside the not the Coliseum. Now I'm on this whole Roman kick, but the stadium. He started signing on stage to kind of like make it part of the show, but he still was getting business done.
In the hockey arena.
Yeah, which is really cool. A couple that stuck out to me, I think, were, the January 6th ones are okay. the $1 billion investment, I think, is good to also the. It's good and bad. The marking the cartels
Yes.
as a criminal organization.
Oh,
Here we go.
that was, so I'm going to say that one's probably my favorite. Like the move to mark them I come from it. So in my line of work, I represent counties, I represent sheriffs, right? Most of the time, a lot of the time, your first line of law enforcement that these cartels are interacting with in the U.S. are your sheriff's offices, are your local police departments, or things along those lines. And we've had multiple instances where the cartels basically come to these people and say, you're going to turn a blind eye, you're going to let us smuggle through your county, or we're going to kill you and everyone in your family.
Right.
And
the money will stop flowing.
right. And well, not even with money. I mean,
Right.
sometimes there
With or
isn't
without.
any
Just a
money
threat.
coming to. It's just a threat. And it's like, yeah, well, this isn't a Sylvester Stallone movie where the sheriff is a former Green Beret,
Right.
and just so happens to have an arms cache where he can take down the cartel. Like, this is just a good person who's put themselves out there to be sheriff, and this is what they're doing, and it's awful. And they're totally outgunned. They're totally out-resourced by these cartels.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, and like, what can you do? Right? As much as you want to be the virtuous person, like, if some group of nasty people are telling you they're going to murder your family if you don't let them do what...
And you can't tell anybody.
What can you do?
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, if I lived in that situation, I could very much see me like applying to those orders of like, well, I don't want my family to die, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? And like they already run the government there.
Yes.
So it's not like there's anyone to go to. So it's kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of like my sheriff coming in to tell me to do something. Like it's of course, but now like my local sheriff here in Richardson's not going to come tell me to do something. But the point being, it's like you don't have a choice. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth because essentially Mexico is a narco state, right? And so now we come into this thing. The executive order marking them as a terrorist organization is like and please let me know about this. Like the way I understand it is now this is a legality issue where all of a sudden he doesn't. It kind of opens up Pandora's box as far as what they can and can't do. They don't need authorization to go to war for these certain groups. They can make strikes, they can do attacks. And when you talk about the cartels, I don't really know exactly how many people and how many soldiers that they have, but it can become a very large conflict.
Right.
Well, but when they join together, when the cartels join together. But then the specifically designated global terrorists, not just your regular terrorists.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So
So it does. So this goes back to the Barbary Pirates, way back when, right?
yes.
I mean, where it's okay. We don't need an act of Congress because we're not going to war with a nation. We are essentially going to war with terrorists, with criminals, however you want to look at it.
small
Pirates,
group, not a nation state. Yeah.
right? Some of the stuff that we've done in the Middle East, where it's like, yeah, we don't need an act of Congress because we're going after a terrorist organization. We're not going to war with a nation state. And so some of it is exactly that. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to war with Mexico, and if some, special forces end up on the other side of the border to carry out an operation, we're not going to war with Mexico.
Which
We are going after a terrorist organization. So, you would like to see some cooperation, but we didn't exactly cooperate with Pakistan when we went after bin Laden. So there will be, I wouldn't be surprised if there will be some of that.
So the one that I really caught my eye was the America First and all that entails. And so even when you're talking about the terrorists, whether they're just your local, your neighboring, or your global terrorists, America First. So we're going to take care of that. We're going to take care of that because we're putting America first.
So what was that part of the resolution? I see that you got to pull it up here.
Yes. From this day forward, the foreign policy of the United States shall champion core American interests and always put America and American citizens first. As soon as practical, practicable, what a good word, the Secretary of State shall issue guidance bringing the Department of State's policies, programs, personnel, and operations in line with an American first foreign policy. So we understand what your interests are and how we can work together, but we're going to put us first.
Right. And so it's funny because that is as neocon as you can get. If you want to talk about like neoconservative international policy, it is that all nation states are going to act selfishly and in their best interest. And so it's sort of funny where you have this, at least it's funny to me, where you have this this Trump administration, which, oh, we don't like the neocons. We're not down with the neocons. We're not into that. And then it's like, oh no, we have like the most neoconservative foreign policy stance possible.
Well, when we're sending all this money to Ukraine, right, and we have North Carolina going on, and so many things that we don't take care of first, it's different statewide, federal.
Yeah.
Okay. However, it does ring for me that let's look here first. I'm happy to help people outside of America. I'm happy to.
I'm not.
Ever?
No, I'm just joking. But mostly not ever. I mean, most things that we do outside is not generally helpful to most people.
Well,
It's helpful to us.
well,
What?
is it helpful to businesses? Is it helpful to raise money? I mean, what is really going on?
I think we do it mostly to help a few people out in this country. It's not a selfless act.
So I mean, I wouldn't say that we support Israel because we're trying to support the military industrial complex. Like, we support Israel because they are our closest
An
ally
ally,
in
yes.
the Middle East, the democracy in the Middle East.
But that
there's
actually
also, like,
helps us.
It helps us, and there is without a doubt like the Judeo-Christian society aspect of it, where
True.
it's like, yeah, the fact that Jerusalem is there, the fact that Bethlehem is there, the fact that all of the holiest sites for Christians and for Jewish people are there, that plays a part in it too. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a real big fan of isolationism. Like, I think if you look back on American history, when we've been isolationists, like, the rest of the world has gone nuts and we've had to, like, go intervene. Where when America is, like, the sole global power, we control the waters with the greatest navy in the world. We control the skies with, like, the top 3 air forces in the world. Like, that's where, I don't know, I just feel like our interests are best served, and I think global order is best served.
Yes, if we have the equipment. So shipbuilding again, airplanes, military airplanes, doing more things with the AI.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Stargate, which was announced today, which is another $500 billion project. OpenAI guy was there today talking
Wow.
about it.
What is that? Is that a federal program or is that a private program?
That's going to be a federal program. Sorry, I started talking about it. I didn't know everything. Talk about it now. It's a $500 billion in private sector AI infrastructure investment. He announced Tuesday billions of dollars in private sector investment. I believe it's over 3 years. This SoftBank CEO was there. OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, which the Oracle CEO I think was on stage with Trump, if I remember correctly. Maybe that was NVIDIA guy. Anyways, they're going to build real hardware infrastructure, software infrastructure, and just and chip infrastructure to bring it here to the United States. It's kind of like a CHIPS Act. I mean, I'm briefly reading about it here, but a CHIPS Act, 3.0.
Well, we got it. I mean, that's the sort of stuff like with AI, you have to have, you have to stay at the cutting edge of AI. Because you can't again, it comes back to what happens if China gets ahead of us on AI?
Oh, yeah.
What happens if Russia gets ahead of us on AI, or just anybody? And it's like, okay, well, one, what happens if they make a little boo-boo in the process of doing that, and all of a sudden, we've got Terminator. Or just what happens with, okay, well, with this new AI stuff, they just overwhelm us.
Right.
And that's,
Because we're all asleep and
right.
just busy.
It's like a new era of mutually assured destruction.
Right.
And it is, and it's a lot easier too, with power outages and whatnot. Another executive order that I thought was really good on federal workers. So reinstated Schedule F, which is kind of the mass layoff. It's easier to fire civil servants. You have to go back into the office.
Yep.
Restoring accountability.
You have to go back in the office. I guarantee you that's going to have people walking out the door. Especially, so here's the problem with this, is that you had a lot of people that have been in D.C. for a long time. They're employed in D.C. COVID happened. They leave D.C. and they moved out of state. Now now you need to go back in. And so either they're like
2-hour train ride.
2-hour train ride, or they live in Colorado.
Right.
Right. And so now they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? They're scrambling. I can't imagine they're going to allow them to start having satellite offices to go into work.
Everywhere. No.
Right. You're going to start seeing like little scams where they're like, oh, I'm going into a WeWork area or whatever. Like, no, you need to be in this building. So I think you're going to have a lot of people just being like, okay, I just bought my house 2 years ago. I don't have enough equity to even sell the thing. Now, but one issue, and there's always like little issues with all these executive orders, right? But one issue is like, okay, well, if you were hired during COVID and you live in Dallas, Texas as a federal government employee, it's like, I work, like, what are you going to do? Like, you hired me as a remote, you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's going to be like little problems like that, but that is really good.
Things to work through.
So talk to me about like, so I've got, there's an associate that we work with at the firm. She is fully remote.
Yeah.
Right. She is in another state, but she does a great job. She's on top of everything. She handles everything. Like with what her job function is, there really is no necessity for her to come into the office. And this is as an attorney.
More than twice a year or whatever.
If even that. Right.
Yeah.
If even that. Like,
Christmas party.
Right. If she wants to come back for something like that.
Meet you. Right.
But it's just like, she can perform her whole job function at home. I guess I don't. It kind of is, it seems a little old fashioned. It seems a little honestly, it seems kind of punitive.
But
it kind of seems like you're coming in and you're wanting to stick it to the people that currently work for the federal government.
If they're holding empty office space for that person, though, either the space needs to be let go, or the person needs to move to fill the space.
Well, let's sell some office space.
Because the too many office buildings that are just being paid for, electricity's on, no one's there.
I don't know. I mean, when you say old-fashioned, we've only been doing remote work since COVID of March of 2020. It's not like
it started before.
It started before.
Mass, that was definitely when we all started going remote.
I think it became more common, right? But I mean, I worked for Bank of America in the past, and we had employees all over the country that were fully remote. It was just somebody with a laptop in their house doing underwriting.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely don't think that you need to go in the office. I'm not one of those people you need to go in the office. Me personally, in an office environment, I'm definitely more productive, right? It's hard to convince me of all the people I know that work remote and all this stuff that they do throughout the day. They're taking yoga classes and they're doing
while they're working.
They're doing their grocery run and they're doing exactly.
Answer the phone.
It's like, hey, look, that's cool, but that's if that's the life you want to live, you should go be an entrepreneur. You should go, or okay, at least if you're a federal employee and everyone else is paying your salary. I don't know. There has to be more accountability. There's not much accountability for federal workers working at home.
I just think that, and I don't know if you worked in an office, like how much office work you did before in your past.
Yeah.
I remember a ton of goofing off in the office. People were at the office for 40 hours a week.
Sure.
But it's not like they were sitting there slaving away for 40 hours a week.
Okay,
I remember when I was a bank manager, I remember there being a lot of people sitting around doing online shopping. I remember there being a lot of people just generally goofing off at the office, not working, walking around, doing whatever. And so, like, if you're not actively managing people, there was still that lost productivity. I don't know if that's any better or worse when people are working remote. You still just need to have active management of your team.
Yeah. Set goals. Yeah.
And at every level of employment, you know, not just federally.
Right. I think it would be good if we got away from the whole, like, thinking about the hours and be like, I need you to perform these tasks for me.
The
Yeah.
job
And
is.
those tasks have this value. And so it's just like, yeah, I don't care if you perform those tasks, if you want to slowly and methodically do them over 40 hours, or if you're able to do them in 20 hours, get the tasks accomplished.
Yeah.
This is the value for that.
But federal workers don't work. Their salary, they're in a union. They're
Well,
not
they know
doing any
they-
of that shit.
Yes, they know they can't be fired practically.
Right. Well,
So-
but that's the same thing even for a federal worker, right? It's like, well, what is your job for the federal government?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
What
about.
is it that we want you to be doing? Your salary, you know, here's what it is. But
I think
yeah.
the play here is that they know X amount of people are quitting. I think another great thing that the Trump administration could do is put out early retirement packages, which that's like what the military did back in the 90s. They put out early retirement packages and a bunch of people took them. You know, they were pretty sweet. You know, you're at 15 years, they'll give you 2.5 years
Reduction
and
in
make it
force.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think this is fully, like I said, this to me has nothing to do with like work. This is drain the swamp.
Yeah.
Punitive. We're gonna get rid of people.
Yeah, we're going to play nice first. Here are your options,
Right.
and like just slowly kind of turn off the AC in the summer and things like that. Like, oh my god.
Sounds like an ADA claim waiting to happen.
So, and then employees are not required to personally or politically support the current president, but they must faithfully implement administration policies to the best of their abilities, the order said, which is huge because I think that is something that Mr. Trump and his group of cronies that walked into D.C. did not expect.
No.
That every single department is just going to slow walk him and say, I can't, I won't, his entire 4 years.
Well, and this ties into the other order reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service.
Yeah.
Tell me why you should be here.
Right.
Show me.
That's it. I mean, that's a big part of it for me. And I 100% think that that's an Elon thing. Because when you hear about how Elon runs his companies, like that's something that he does that I've read that he, you know, he'll sit down, he'll visit, and he'll talk to everybody for 5 minutes. He'll just have a long line of everybody that works there that comes and talks to him for 5 minutes. So we can kind of figure out like, what do these people do? Are they worthwhile? Do they need to be here? Are their jobs worthwhile? All that sort of stuff. I love the idea of doing that at a federal level. Because I mean, like, look, the post office is worse than FedEx. And the reason the post office is worse than FedEx is because it's a government function and it's not a private sector for-profit. You have an incentive to be efficient,
Right.
to be accurate, to deliver on time, maybe even deliver early.
Although they deliver a lot of Amazon products.
Right.
Well, now
Because Amazon can't.
they do. I mean, they're trying to pick up where they can. They have done some. But the best part about the post office, this is why Nancy Pelosi wants to keep it around. Her husband gets to list all of their old properties for sale in California.
Oh.
So that's why she wants to keep the post office around. But she's kind of out the door anyway. But
Okay.
I'm not against us having a post office. I just like more private sector
Yeah.
management philosophy implemented in the government.
yeah, get that weight off of our
Everywhere.
shoulder.
Right.
And he implemented a hiring freeze. However, this does not apply to the military or immigration enforcement, national security, or public safety. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of job openings on U.S. Gov.
Well, so here's one that there's 3 of them that I've been seeing making the rounds. You know, people getting fired up about them. One is pulling us out of the WHO.
Yes.
The World Health
that was
Organization.
Big. That's
Yeah.
big.
Right.
They were really terrible to us during COVID.
They were awful. But this goes back to, and it's something that we've talked about on this podcast specifically before, the need to inform people. Because if you're just reading a headline, if you just read the headline, Trump withdraws the U.S. from the World Health Organization, that's bad.
Right. You say,
Right.
oh my God.
I mean, obviously, I don't think
Anti-science.
it's bad, but just that headline. Well, why wouldn't we want to be a part of the World Health Organization?
Right.
They
There's
don't know what it is.
They don't know what
Right.
it is. They don't know what they do. And again, the question is like, well, what value is it to us? Now, if we're leading the ship, right? This is just like my neoconservative interest in us being involved around the globe. Look, if the U.S. is running the WHO, if we're paying the bill and running it, okay. But that's not what's happening.
So China has a population of 1.4 billion,
Mm-hmm.
has 300% of the population of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
yet contributes nearly 90% less.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay
And
with-
benefits the same?
I'm okay with that if we're running the WHO.
If we're running it.
Right? That's always been my thing about the UN and the WHO. I have no problem, or NATO. I've got no problem with us paying the lion's share, as long as we're the ones, as long as we're daddy.
What value were we getting out of it, though? That's maybe too in the weeds.
Mom and dad.
Well, I mean, there is value because look, part of the value of the WHO is you end up with like, countries that
This ice.
was that ice. They're making their runs
They're
here.
already around here, dude. They're like, we're coming for you.
I think that's probably the Biden's presidential helicopter. Him and Jill got
Going to the old folks'
They gave
Dropping them off.
This is what happens when you let Joe give directions.
Where the
So yeah, if you have like third world countries where you want to prevent there from being outbreaks, I mean there is legitimate. I do still believe that humanitarian aid is a good thing, and it's something as Americans, as the most prosperous country in the world, that we should be doing that, right? Like we should be doing humanitarian type stuff. So there are things the WHO can do in that regard.
Pandemic agreements.
But that's where it starts to get
Health regulations.
right. That's where the problem is. The problem is that the U.S. no longer is steering the ship. You've got China. You've got these European countries that all we are is a piggy bank.
Right.
And once it became that,
That's right.
there is no need for us to continue to fund or be a part of that thing.
We don't need you, just your
Right.
money.
If you don't want to recognize that if you want to bite the hand that feeds you, we'll stop feeding you.
Right.
And that's sort of how I look about the WHO and the UN right now.
Yeah. And NATO. And NATO.
I still love NATO.
Well, you can love NATO, that's fine, but it was the same concept where
Right.
we were their piggy bank, and then any time that they could get a chance to get over on us and still expect us to be their schoolyard protector. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, how many tanks can you get on the field right now? None. I guess I don't really actually know enough about who and what value we get from it and the research and all those things, but I do remember during COVID, they were very much pro-vaccine narrative, didn't want to hear anything else. There was something about China and how they didn't want to talk about the Wuhan lab leak conspiracy.
Right.
That was fairly obnoxious. And I love that one turned out to be true. Obviously, I'm not happy that it got released from the lab, but man, I had so many people tell me I'm an idiot, and I was like, no, I just think that kind of makes sense.
Right.
It's the Wuhan Institute of Virology or whatever the name was. I'm like, that sounds pretty close to like what we all have right now.
What happened? Right.
But apparently, like the story of like something leaking on top of a bird, or I forget what the story was.
I mean, I still like that one. I mean, the whole like somebody ate a bat in a market or ate a pangolin or something like that in
Right,
the market.
sure.
From 1,500 miles away.
Sure.
That was fun. I mean, that was way more fun than the U.S. was funding gain of function research in China, and because we were doing it in China, there are poor security, procedures, and whoops,
Chaos happened.
we released something. Let me go ahead and pardon Anthony Fauci, all the way back to 2014,
Just in case.
just in case.
So before we jump on that bandwagon, another executive order that I really appreciate obviously was the border. That was kind of the biggest one of the border things, right?
Right.
Remain in Mexico policy.
Yep.
I'm on board.
Which was really great because that actually kind of puts the pressure. It puts the pressure on Mexico because Mexico's like, you guys aren't staying here.
Right.
So Mexico ends up having to train everyone back to Guatemala, and Guatemala's like, no, you're not staying here because remember, Mexico has a giant border wall with Guatemala, right?
Well, it's the stupidest thing.
Straight concrete, by the way.
It's the much smaller border. It's the stupidest thing to sit there and say, I'm seeking refuge from the dangerous country that I live in. Oh, let me walk through 4 countries to get to the United States.
Through a desert and a river.
That to me is just like, absolutely not. If you're a refugee and you are trying to escape the Honduran gangs or whatever it is, when you get to Guatemala, congratulations, friend. You
Right.
have escaped the Honduran gangs.
Exactly.
If you get to Mexico, congratulations, friend. You have escaped the gangs.
Yep.
If you're going to sit there and say, oh, you want to get all the way to U.S., you are not just being a refugee. You are looking for the economic benefit of coming to America.
Right. And you're an economic refugee.
I am not down with that. We are already very generous with our immigration policy when you compare what we allow versus what other countries in the world allow.
Oh, by far.
I know.
We're standard deviations away
Right.
from them.
And we're more than allowing it.
Yes.
We're asking them to come
We're
here.
encouraging
Correct.
it. Yeah, we're giving them apps. All of them have fun. Well, here's the biggest, here's the dead giveaway about all this, is that they're all men, ages,
military
16
age?
to
Yeah.
30. I mean, you can say military age, that's fine. But it's like in those countries, generally speaking, you would be married or have kids.
And
right?
they may.
And they may. And now you're telling me you escaped a war zone or deadly gang stuff, and then you left your family
Wife and children.
Right.
and children. You left them there so that way you could come here and get a job and then maybe get
Send
them here
back
one
money
day.
like
It's like,
he'll ever get it.
dude,
Right.
not a chance in the world. If you are a parent, you are leaving your kids behind anywhere. I don't even leave them on play dates,
Right.
right?
Not now.
And to say I'm gonna, oh hey, it's really bad here in Dallas. I'm gonna go up to Tulsa and I'm gonna find a job, and then once I get things settled there, I'm gonna train you up. It's like, no, dude, you're not doing that. You're lying.
Or
It's
I'm
a
going to
lie.
send children with people I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing. I just don't think a lot of people, I mean, it could happen. Anything is possible, but when you just have these waves and waves and waves of mostly men, it's just like the numbers are very disproportionate. That's just like a side factor from everything that you said, which
So-
is in law.
What do you think the whole waves of, like, what is the significance of that? That there's waves and waves of men?
I think that some countries are actively deporting people.
Oh, emptying prisons?
Well, empty prison. So we've seen that there's a lot of evidence of that, but I think that there is economic issues in these countries. There's civil issues in these, issues in these countries that they are incentivizing people to leave.
Oh, for sure. So the fact that it's mostly young men doesn't bother me at all, because that's kind of normal for immigration patterns like that. Right, I mean, because that's what you end up having. I mean, think about like the first people that were coming over to the U.S. crossing. You had a bunch of young men taking the risks, signing up for the Navy, signing up to go
Like
to
Christopher Columbus?
Jamestown. Right, like that's what you ended up having.
Well,
A lot of times when you look at those sort of,
the Pilgrims were a little bit more mixed.
well, the Pilgrims were, but the Pilgrims were not the main source of people coming over to the U.S. Right?
Have you been to Jamestown? They actually sent people who didn't know what they were doing.
Right, but
They
the
didn't know
point-
how to fish. They didn't know how to hunt.
But they were looking for opportunity. They sent young men. If you look at a lot of the early immigration, they would have to send women because there were no women in the New World, because the first wave of people over were men. And so it's not uncommon at all for you to have young men immigrating to seek money, right? Like,
Right.
I can't get a job here, so I'm going to immigrate to the U.S. And I grew up on the border. That's what you would have when you would have a lot of the temporary seasonal laborers that would come across the border to work the fields and to pick the green chilies in Hatch, New Mexico. It wasn't a mix of men and women. It was a bunch of young men that would come over. They would do it. When I worked for Bank of America, there was a policy that Bank of America had where they had like basically like a specialized wire program, so that you could send money back to Mexico.
Everyone does it via Walmart Pay now.
That's right.
And so for me, that's what it is.
Right, we're
Like,
agreed. They're coming here for economic issues,
Yes.
not.
Okay.
That's
Well,
what I'm
and
saying.
the free
If-
things.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's all young men because they're coming here for economic issues, not everyone's dying where I'm at,
Right.
so I'm going to roll out
Okay.
and leave my family.
Or that
Yeah.
they want to be American and
Right.
protect America.
Yeah.
No.
And
I mean, maybe they come here for the thought of American values in some way. I don't think that. I don't really know. The point being is they're coming here for economic issues. We have rules around the world. We have rules within this country. Hey, you can't come here. We had that thing
Right.
during the Cold War against communism. You could come here because we want communism to die off and we want to grow democracy. That's all over with.
right.
That's all over with. We're done taking other people in from, these shithole countries that you voted like that. Most of these dictators at this point do get in the first round. They get in the first round by some legitimate vote. Mm-hmm. Now, after that, they start winning by like 90%. Obviously, that's
Right.
not very legitimate, but they do bite on that.
Why are the other candidates dead? I don't know.
Right. Or it's a candidate that gets up on stage and is like, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm actually going to vote for you. Like something like stupid like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I want an immigration policy that serves American needs.
sure.
Right. So, look, if we're able to pull the best and brightest from different parts of the world for us to advance as a country,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Right. Like, we love the fact that we've got all this SpaceX and Cybertruck. Well, as an immigrant that did that, right?
Sure.
I mean, when we weren't going to the moon without, and I do think we went to the moon. We weren't going to the moon without a whole bunch of immigrants from Germany helping out along the way. Like, that's to me part of the American greatness. Is it's like, yeah, we'll take the best and the brightest from around the world, come here, be a part of our country, be a part of our society, help us prosper.
I'm all for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Brain drain the entire world.
Right.
I'm totally cool with that.
But then there's also labor drain parts of the world. Like, there's again, I'll use like a lot of farming, especially along the border. In Deming, New Mexico, where my family's from, there's not a population in Deming that can handle the needs of farming when it comes time to plant and harvest and do all that stuff.
Sure.
You need that seasonal labor that's willing to come in and do it. There's not a lot of seasonal labor in the U.S. that are moving across the country to come during harvest season, things along those lines. But you do have people that are coming from Mexico that are willing to do that because that's the best possible source of income that they could have.
So I have family in New York that picked potatoes.
Yep.
Moms. It's, oh, good, I get to make money.
Right.
Dairy. It's freezing out. All the plumbing is frozen. We got to go feed the cows. And they would hang the children in the rafters from car seats.
Right.
So that they wouldn't get trampled by the cows. I mean, like, we got to make this work. And those were moms.
Yeah.
With the children making it work. We've lost some of that. How do we make it work with who we have in these areas? And I think people expect, oh, that's other people that are going to come do that, pick my green beans. That is a large part. We do need seasonal workers, but I think we have people who would do that if they just don't consider it something they would do right now.
Well, we're
not hungry enough.
We've artificially, I agree, we artificially have backed ourselves into a corner where there's a realization if we don't have a plethora of seasonal workers, the cost of food will go up.
Yes.
Right.
So
yes.
So by saying that, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of you're saying what people are saying is that we kind of are exploiting people to keep our food cheaper because you're exploiting them relative to what you would pay somebody else.
So I don't think that it is exploitative. I don't think it's exploiting because they want it. Right? Like, it's not. It's better than what they would have back in Mexico, and they want the seasonal part of it. They don't want to be here full time. Like, back when we had I mean, there are some people that certainly would love to move to the U.S. and be in the U.S.
Sure.
But a lot of those seasonal labor people, they can come here, they can make enough money during the harvest season to where they can go back home and not necessarily have to work as hard for a while.
Exactly.
Because they've made so much money coming to the U.S., they can go back home. That's the seasonal part of it that works best for everybody.
So it's not their dream
agreeing
job.
again. We're agreeing again that we're competing with the third world. Again, their cost of living across the border is it's like the H-1B visa situation. It is usually a single male comes over here, rents a room and or a bunk.
Right.
His cost of living is wildly low compared to a young man like myself who wants a wife and kids and the house and everything. I have to get paid X to have that American dream, and he can accept a lower wage, and so it stunts my pay growth. And we're going to constantly be running into this thing of like, well, I mean, Americans are going to have to realize if you want your wages to increase, things are going to have to get more expensive. We're going to have to get more creative with, for instance, like AI and harvesting technology and things like that. You're going to have to let those things boom out. But Americans constantly competing with the third world, we're never going to be able to overcome that. You have to remove the third world from the employment equation, or wages are just never going to rise.
Well, I mean, we're not suppressing wages in farming.
Yeah,
like no, we're not. Because what's the point of increasing the wages?
Yeah, we are.
If no. Hold on. Let me finish my thought.
All right.
What's the point of increasing the wages if we're also going to see inflation in food costs? Right. I mean, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna lose. We're not going to get the full purchasing power of increasing the wages. So we don't have like an active market where Americans are clamoring to go work those jobs in those places. And what do we want to? Okay, so we want to take, and the other part of it for me is, I would rather Americans, from the economic like creative destruction concept, I would rather them be focused on building additional skills as opposed to doing that. I think that is the best for our nation as a whole, for Americans to be developing higher skills and allowing some of the low skill, seasonal labor being done by immigrants that want to do it as seasonal labor. Now, I agree with you when you're talking about like some of the visa programs where you're doing engineering work, or where you're doing tech work, or where you're doing some of that high skill stuff. Like that's where our immigration policy has to serve the U.S. as a whole.
Yeah. So there was a lot in there, and kind of on both ends. We have like agriculture, let's say, that's on the low end, and tech that's on the high end. American workers are getting squeezed from both. They're getting squeezed on this side from the seasonal labor, and they're getting squeezed from this side from third world coders. I guess you could boil that down too. I'm not a techie. I don't really know what you guys are doing or arguing about, but I just know those guys will work cheaper than you living here. You went to college, you got the more expensive degree because you had to go to a more expensive school, generally speaking, and you have a cost of living that is much higher than the person that is renting a room or a bunk, and so there's that. But it won't be a cent about the rising cost of food. Not everyone eats green beans, and so if the cost per bushel of green beans, however those are weighed, is going to increase, but that doesn't mean everyone's grocery bill is going to increase by that much. Now you say that, hey, well, no one wants to go and work those jobs because farmers or corporate farms aren't offering a wage in which you would be incentivized to go do that. The wages out there have not been able to increase because of the cheap labor that's always readily available. There's a really good example about Tyson Chicken. Tyson Chicken was not using E-Verify, and they had tons of illegal...
Yep, but they're plants.
Right, and so they got a big raid. They paid a huge fine, and they said, okay, fine, we'll open up all of the jobs. Well, now you have to because we just arrested everyone in here.
Right.
Okay, so they opened up the jobs at that wage they were paying everyone else, which was like $12.50 or something like that, right? Which was above, I think this was in Alabama, which is above the minimum wage there, I think. Well, they couldn't, and so they raised it up to like $16 to $18. Well, now all of a sudden everyone showed up for a job. And that's been the problem there, is because the artificial third world labor was beating down the local native population, mainly the black and already Hispanic populations that were there, and that's who ended up taking the $16 to $18 an hour job, and Tyson ended up paying because they were incentivized to do so.
And did chicken prices go up?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
They did,
So-
but it wasn't $1. It wasn't like a chicken got $4 more expensive.
Oh, chicken's got a lot more expensive, man.
Yeah, but don't there's no way you're
But if you're gonna sit there and say that our whole agricultural system, we're picking more than green beans,
Right.
And if we're gonna take our whole agricultural system and say we're gonna, it's just basic economics. If you're gonna increase the cost of wages in all of those places, you are going to see inflation in all of those food items.
Absolutely.
I think that America is better off as a whole with having the lower food costs that benefits everybody across the country, and try to get those other low skill American labor that would be out there working the fields and have them do something that's more productive.
Okay, I guess, yeah. I mean,
Because it's not like we have like a big unemployment problem. We've got relatively low unemployment.
well, millions of people have dropped out of the employment pool.
Sure.
They've given up. And they've mostly given up because it just there's no point of even trying. The wages don't make sense to them to do it, and so they get on disability of some type. And that's when they drop out of the labor pool. And so a lot of people, and I went to a lot of these people. First question, I'm like, what kind of government assistance do you have? Because that's what everyone's on. Everyone's got an issue. Everyone's got this problem or that problem. They're not in the labor pool, and and their mind, it's like, I could get government assistance for whatever it is a month, like 14. Everyone's different scaled, right? Or I could go get a job, work 40 hours a week, and get X amount of dollars. A lot of people are just gonna not go get the job.
Right, that seems like an incentive to cut government incentives.
I'm for that as well.
Yeah.
I believe that does keep people home. And so in a vacuum, if you look at one specific issue on one specific issue, all these things work together. But I don't think that there's any denying that third world labor coming to the United States is hurting American workers. It's suppressing wages by a lot.
I'd have to see the numbers on it being by a lot.
I've never heard anyone say that it doesn't.
Well, like I said, I'd have to see the numbers on it being by a lot. I'm not saying that it doesn't. And like I said, from a high skill standpoint, I would agree. Like, we need to protect the high skill, high earning type of positions. Low skill seasonal labor, to me, is like, yeah, let's keep inflation down.
Yeah, that I think Trump's going to have an issue now, especially who he had standing on stage with, excuse me, the H-1B visa thing. Mm-hmm. The high skill labor, that's exactly who those people need.
Right.
Like, obviously, you look at Jeff Bezos, you think of warehouses and stuff like that, but that's not actually true. He's like getting a lot of his wealth lately is from the servers and the web access and all those things. So he's going to have an issue there where it's like people, are trying to get these degrees and go in for these high jobs. But is he really going to be able to do anything about that? That's where we're going to start seeing the rift there.
Right.
I'm interested how he's going to be able to split that. I'm assuming that's going to be after the first midterm because he needs that money. He needs that Elon money. I would assume right after that time frame, Elon's going to be
saving some money.
I just don't know how much Trump, I'll be interested to see how much Trump is concerned about any of that stuff as far as like midterms, right? Because right now for him, he's not running again. I'm sort of interested to see how much Trump is just going to go in there and just put in Trump policy and push Trump policy, because
Change agent.
yeah, I mean, he's sort of unrestrained by not having to worry about
Lame duck.
right.
Don't have to worry.
So, all right, Deborah, are there any of the executive orders that we haven't touched on that?
The energy,
Oh yeah,
and eliminating the electric vehicle mandate.
yes,
Let's see what happens.
that was big.
That was huge.
Other than it said drill, baby, drill, what else was there in there as far as one order specified specifically targets energy production in Alaska, rescinding Florida President Biden's protections around the coastal areas.
Yep, the outer continental shelf. Minerals, mineral use. But the EV, because that's been pushed and pushed and pushed. And I know a lot of people who have purchased and are have restrictions
Right.
imposed just because of the type of vehicle they have. How far can you go? How long does it take to charge? Where can you charge?
Right.
Can you pick me up?
That's
Because I
when-
still drive a gas vehicle.
when all the EV stuff was just new, I was curious about it, and I was on a road trip with a friend at the time, and so it was like a friend of mine were in one car, his sister was in another car, and the path that we got to take as having a gas powered vehicle was way different than what their trip was up to where we were going, because they had to map out where they could
Charging
charge
stations.
and how long it took them to sit there and charge and all that sort of
Well,
stuff.
let's talk about subsidies.
Right.
Did gasoline-powered cars ever get a subsidy?
Right.
No.
No, they actually have an extra tax.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, what do you think about this conspiracy theory? The
Ooh.
Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America.
America.
No, it's been, people say, this is what I've been told. One of Trump's favorite lines is that changing the name gets around a lot of the restrictions that have been put on the Gulf of Mexico. So there's no more Gulf of Mexico. Now we're in the Gulf of America.
yeah, I think he's reaching.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a. That's
I didn't
a,
say, no, Trump didn't say that.
That's
I'm
a
saying
fun theory.
everyone on
fun.
the internet.
That's a fun internet theory. I just legally, I think that'd be. I think that I don't know how much that would stand.
Yeah.
I was also interested in the executive order purporting to limit birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
So just sort of the idea that, hey, just if you're essentially if you're here illegally, and you are, you have a kid,
Anchor baby.
that no more, right? I wholeheartedly support that. Right, if you're here illegally, you should not be getting birthright citizenship if your kids are born. Because what happens is you use the term anchor baby, and what that basically means is, per the law, if you have an American that is a minor, you can have parents that are not citizens live in America with legal status because they are necessary to take care of that minor.
Yep.
And so that's the plan. That's the immigration plan for a lot of folks, is to do something like that. So again, I am all in favor of that. I don't find it to be not compassionate or any of those things. It's just like, no, this is just basic. Again, America first. We want to help the world. We have a generous immigration policy to help the world.
As it is, yeah.
But we don't need to sit here and create all these special loopholes for people to jump through.
Or people showing up pregnant,
Right.
waiting to give birth when they get here.
Correct.
You made a plan to break the law.
Right.
And then to do this. And we're not going to use it as an extenuating circumstance where we need to be kind to you.
Right.
Nope. Love that you had a good baby. We'll see you later.
Yeah, it's not a good faith thing.
No,
right?
not
You're
in
not
good faith.
here in the country in good faith and just so happen to have a child while you're here.
Right.
Yeah, I guess we're the only country in the world that
I've heard that.
does that. I don't. I just looked it up, but
I
there
don't
wasn't
know how
any.
other
There wasn't any
countries
clear.
track down.
There are a lot of countries in the world. I would be surprised if we were the only one, but
Yeah, I know you can't go to Japan and get away with that,
Right.
Or anything like that. But we'll see if that stands up against the test of time. I've already heard a lot of back and forth about that. I mean, it makes sense. Man, that would really throw the left into an absolute fury.
Anytime you talk about children.
I mean, look, and this is the thing. I'm like, I don't know. In politics, it's always about who's really driving this and what's the actual thing.
Yeah.
There are all of these true globalist, open border type people.
Yep.
That are out there. They're the ones that are helping to shuttle, illegal migrants into the U.S. through Mexico and all those other countries. they're the ones that would be up in arms about this and sit there and lie and tell you that they really care because they care about the children and so and all this. But
Right.
it's really because it's a big blow to their open border strategy.
Right. Some AOC stuff. Crying at a Obama-built facility. So that's
standing in
Which keeps them safe, the children safe.
right.
So
Protects them from the smugglers, but yeah, let's
Oh my
pretend like
gosh.
we're doing something bad.
right.
that's something that's going to be, and this is my personal take on this. Obama was able to deport like roughly 3 million people in his 8 years.
And nobody batted an eye.
Nope, no one bad. I mean, the left really did not like him for that, but he didn't say anything. He did that to a certain degree because he was trying to protect black communities, and that's kind of where that's where he comes
Crime,
from. drugs, employment, things of that nature. And so there's 3 million people. Now, in the last couple of days, I still hear people throwing out this 11 million number. I'm like, why does that number never change?
Right.
We've been talking about 11 million for 10 years now. And yet we just continuously see more and more pictures and videos of people coming across the border. It has to be 25 million by now or something. I don't know. I don't believe the American people are going to have the stomach to, even if, well, not even if, the American people aren't going to have the stomach to watch 10 million people be deported and how it is going to need to be done. They're not going to be able to stomach it. Right now, Trump has the edge on illegal immigration. He has the edge on that, right? But I think as this thing goes, especially with the media, over the years, they barely showed any of these girls that, have been essayed and then murdered.
Right.
They don't show the families. They don't show any of this, right? But they're going to show you every single person that is deported, every single mother that wanted to be a school teacher, every single little kid that was going to be an engineer or a doctor or something
People
like
that
that.
have gotten married.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to show
have
all
jobs
that.
and whatnot here.
Absolutely.
So much loss.
Yeah, it's gonna be really bad on this. The American people, even the most staunch people on illegal immigration, I just don't think they're going to be able to handle it. I think that he has about a year to get this thing going, and beyond like traffic stops and getting actual criminals and being able to keep that hype up, like, hey, here's 12 more insane people, and constantly blasting that out from the big platforms, putting it in Americans' face. He's going to have to counteract what the mainstream media or the legacy media is putting out. To a degree, it's going to be even hard for Trump to overcome that, because it is going to be the biggest fight back that we have ever seen.
Well, and how do you balance out? But the poor kids won't be able to go to school here and learn to read. Let's balance that out with the kids that are being sex trafficked.
Right. And that's
lost. 300,000 some odd children lost.
Well, but that's the thing. Are we deporting the sex trafficked children? Right? I mean,
Can we find them?
Well, I think that's the point, and
we want to stop that. That's going to protect the children.
I mean, again,
Stop it here.
Americans at their core still are Judeo-Christian valued country, right? I mean, that's still the sense of morality. That's still the sense of ethics. We still want to help the poor. We still want to help the unfortunate. So the answer to the question is, it just comes down to policy, right? So if you're Trump, yeah, I think that you've got to go to where the American people are, and the American people are going to be good with deporting criminals.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at violent criminals. Let's start there. We're going to deport the violent criminals. We're going to deport, the drug dealers, the gang members. Like, we're going to do that stuff. If we identify people that were in gangs in other countries, whatever, all that stuff, those are the people that we're going to deport. But I agree. The American people are not going to support. We're going to deport this, Hispanic woman and her kids, this from Guatemala, that immigrated here and are just here working and aren't causing any problems.
But
I just don't think that you're ever going to get deportations on that, because I just don't think that the American people and the American ethic supports that.
So how many foster parents are we going to get then who are now willing to help these kids who don't really have their own parents here?
Right.
So everybody's going to be stepping up foster parenting?
Well, but the point
No.
is what's the alternative for these kids? Are we just going to send them back to
I just
these
don't
other
want people
countries?
saying, "Oh, we can't." Then step up.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Like
You can't
there's
say one thing and
definitely-
not-
right. Where it is going to take, and this has been, you go back to when Bush was in office. One of the great plans that he had is when he had the faith-based organizations that could get federal funding for stuff.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, who are the people that would step up in those instances? Well, historically, it's been the churches. Right, American churches are the ones that step up and do that sort of stuff and offer those sort of plans. And when they were building orphanages back in the 1800s, when the government wasn't the thing that solved everything, yeah, you would have wealthy benefactors sponsor an orphanage. You'd have a church that would have an orphanage. You still have a lot of the churches and stuff that have the schools.
Well, now we have very large Catholic churches out of Dallas and Fort Worth funneling millions of people across the border. That was
NGOs.
Yeah, NGOs, and their cover is they are churches.
Right.
That's their
Sure.
And the priest is on the board and everything like that. But really, it's just one of those NGOs that get people here to the border, get them to claim asylum. They get them on the other side of the border. They give them all the things that they need. They find them housing, and the whole time they're getting paid for it. That's
It's a
that's
business.
their business model.
It's a business.
So you're gonna have to send me that story about the Catholic. As a Catholic in Dallas, I would certainly be interested.
It was in Fort Worth. Yeah.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah, and I think that was by Scoreboard. Maybe broke that.
Texas scoreboard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Another thing was the trade policy and opposing possibly starting on February 1st. But I heard that they need to do a study. So this is what's different about Trump 2025 to 2020 or 2017 is like he's doing this. I feel like he's listening to people. I feel like he's listening to his advisors. They're like, hey, if you want to put this tariff in, you're going to have to do some federal studies, and we can do them quickly. But you have to do federal studies to show why we need these tariffs to be implemented, which is great. And I think he's a very different person now where he's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
2017 Trump was not listening to anybody.
Well, I think that Trump 2017 was listening to people. They were just
Not the
weren't
right people.
Yeah,
Not
John
the right
Bolton,
people.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not just the John Bolton, but I mean, it's even like the Bannons of the world, right? I mean, you got some people that are great advocates, but they don't necessarily understand how to get, how to make the dinner, right? They can order it, but they can't necessarily make it. And I think that's what he was stepping in a lot his first term. Where it's like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but
and
how
if
do
you do it a certain way, it's just like border wall funding, right? I mean, went two full budget cycles in his first term without putting it in there, and then by the time he put budget funding in there, now the Democrats control the House and the Senate.
And how long does it take to get supplies?
Right. So.
That are busy rusting on the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, going back on the deportation thing, like this also goes back to, I think, a problem that Republicans have developed over the last 30, 40 years, and that is failing to engage with the public and quitting on the battle of ideas.
Yeah.
I think too often the Republican Party has the mindset of we'll win elections and then we'll just pass the laws. And that's a recipe for disaster. If you go in and you start passing laws before you've sold them to the American public, then that's how you lose elections, and that's how you have all of your laws undone. And I think that's the thing about the deportation is like, yeah, right now, Americans, the general public, totally good with deporting criminals, right? We don't want criminals here.
Well, that's the main thrust right now, right?
Right. But then when we start talking about, okay, well, what about deporting people that aren't criminals, right? People that are here.
That have been here for 20 years.
They've been here for 20 years, been here for 2 years. that are the dreamers, right? The kids that were born here from illegal parents that are already here.
Yeah.
What do we do about all of that? What do we do as far as a pathway to citizenship?
Do we have to decide that all today?
Tonight? No.
Okay.
No. But
so
it's
we
just,
can take a minute.
well, it's just the point. The point
It
being
is
is
good to
that
consider all of it.
these are things that, like, yeah, if the desire is to deport more than the violent criminals, then the first work that has to be done is selling people or explaining to people why it's worthwhile to do, right? Because we know the cost. We know the cost to the humans that are being deported, and we know that doesn't feel good. So then what's the benefit? Why is it worthwhile for us to endure inflicting pain on those people in order to accomplish whatever?
Somewhat of a precedent, though, too. Will you let them stay? So I'm coming now.
Right. That's easier. You can address that with border security. I mean,
You can try.
That was sort of the mindset, right, when Reagan did immigration reform in the 80s, where it's like, okay, we'll grant amnesty, but we're going to take these other measures to stop at the border.
Yeah.
And then those border measures just slowly whittled away over time.
Yeah, they just get forgotten about the next cycle.
Right.
Right.
That's just like, that's the thing that has to be all encompassing. My first question is, did you miss your court date? You came here, you claimed whatever was the term at that time they got
Right.
here. You were given a court date. Like, what? You were just like, oh, I'm not going to go. I guess there is some, have you been a valued member of society? Are you contributing?
Right.
Obviously, you have kids. Those all do matter. I think before we started recording, we talked about this, was if you just take away the incentive, a lot of people will stop coming here. Because like our previous conversation, the cost of living where they're from,
Right.
and every American experiences this when you travel overseas. You're like, oh, it's so cheap here, right? And of course, we have a high income here, so we're going there. It's a little bit different, but most people just want to go back to where they're from.
Right.
They want to go home, right? And so they might just leave. They come here, like if you're someone that's from Venezuela, right? I don't actually believe these people really want to go live in upstate New York. I don't think anyone wants to live in upstate New York with 12 feet of snow. But it's like they're there because there's so much government incentive for them just to show up and do nothing on unemployment for a year and all the little knick-knack benefits that you can get. Children, if you have children, and then if you look at, for instance, if you do benefits per household too, that's where they get you. They say, well, illegals can't apply for government subsidies or things like that. And that's the leftist argument. But it's like, hey, but per household, how many kids do they have that are citizens?
Right.
Now the whole household is getting a benefit, right? And so I think once you start to quickly take away those benefits, I think that, I don't know, I'm just making this number up at this point, but let's say there's 30 million people here illegally, you probably get close to, the high single digits that start to leave over 4 years if you start taking away all their benefits,
I mean, yeah. Well, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, and it's not our obligation to fix Venezuela so they want to stay or they can stay.
Right.
However, lots of stuff is going on there that would push people away to come and take risks.
Yeah, it goes back to the, like we said, the first thing in the inauguration, America first.
Right.
Right. Like, well, what is the thing that benefits America the most? Right. When we're thinking about these immigration policies and what we're wanting to do, and if we're willing to spend money to help turn Mexico away from being a narco state, right? Hey, tell you what, we're going to come in. We have some experts at getting rid of terrorist organizations. We're going to help you with the cartel, and then because I don't know what the numbers anymore. There was a point in time where for Mexico, like I want to say it was either the fourth or fifth biggest source of revenue in Mexico was money coming in from the U.S.
Yeah, remittances.
Right, where people in the U.S.
Right.
sending money back to Mexico.
Yeah, which should
And
be
it's just
taxed.
Via Walmart, right.
Well, and the issue with that is like, well, that does, like, that money going out of the country doesn't benefit us,
Yeah.
right?
And mostly it's under the table money. It's not.
Taxed.
And this is where you get back to the incentives. I think the single biggest incentive for people coming here to the U.S. is jobs.
Jobs, yeah.
And so if it's like and I always have this this battle when it comes to the E-Verify system, right?
Yeah.
Because there's the part of me that at my core is so uncomfortable with giving the federal government access to all of your employees like that. Basically, the initial screening of your employees. That makes me incredibly uncomfortable. But on the flip side, E-Verify, and I think that I want to say that there was something that had to do with the fact that everybody had to use E-Verify now for like government employees or something along those lines. But man, if you hold employers liable for violations of E-Verify and start going after the employers that are employing the illegal immigrants,
Yeah.
man, that you dry up the incentive fast.
Yeah. Huge fines or something.
Right.
People, they'll look at that $5 to $10 wage discrepancies and they'll be like, it's just not worth it.
Right.
It's just simply not worth it. I mean, and that's the thing. So, like, back to this Tyson chicken thing, they were using E-Verify, but everyone was using fake socials.
Right.
But they're knowingly doing it. Like, they're knowingly, like, just show me a
Right.
social security they put the number in,
Yep.
and it comes back good.
Right.
But it's like, okay, but that's like a woman's name to a dude.
Right.
You know? And so they got hemmed up, like, pretty bad. But
Well, and that's where that goes back to enforcement, right? Like, get people out there enforcing E-Verify stuff. You know, like, that's if you take away the jobs, you take away the main incentive. And it's like, I'm not going to risk going here and getting caught and getting sent back and all that sort of stuff when I'm not going to get a job when I get there.
yeah, it's definitely not worth the award. And, you know, again, I'm all about people having an opportunity, and if we can make it's really, that's probably the biggest challenge, is to make a government bureaucracy more efficient. People applying to come here to work, even if it's on a temporary seasonal pass or something like that, or for these higher end jobs. I think that if you're coming here, if you're getting paid arguably the same wage as someone that's been working the same amount of time in that field, like, I don't think you should be compared to somebody that's been there for 12 years. Obviously, that person's going to know more than you, but as long as it's not creating a direct disadvantage to someone trying to enter that same field,
Right.
I'm all about it. I think that's totally fine.
So I wonder if that's something, and we're going to go in the weeds, and we need to probably change subjects soon, but I wonder if that's something that could be attached to the visa process itself for employers. It's just like, look, yeah, you can bring in, HB1, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you can bring in one of these high skilled people from other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But as part of that visa, you have to pay them at a certain percentage, right? Like, a certain rate, whatever
80,
it is.
90%, something high.
Whatever it is. Like, yeah, something where you've got to pay them almost exactly what you're paying the rest of your employees.
Yeah.
This is not you're doing the visa program to bring in, cheap labor. If you're running a farm, okay, you can bring them in, but obviously you have to pay a minimum wage, right? Whatever that is where you're at. Like, you've got to pay them the minimum wage when they're here and pay taxes on them and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Elon has retreated to after this whole early debacle. Like, he kind of realized, he's like, oh yeah, I am standing with MAGA. I kind of have to pick my fights here. I think he was like, okay. And now I do think that we're going to look into that and kind of reassess what those things look like. Real quick, I wanted to say, I had earlier said, I got on Texas Scorecard, breaking news, Texas AG versus Catholic nonprofit. They're actually out of, Kim Paxton was going after them. They're actually out of El Paso. And all over Texas Scorecard, they got a couple of articles on them. Essentially, they are a front
Have we gotten a verdict in these cases yet? Or are these allegations the government's making against people?
This is allegations.
Okay.
So that was in the summer of last year.
Yeah.
So this is an ongoing thing. I've heard nonprofits like this, front companies, NGOs, they use the guise, or the disguise of a charitable religious organization as such, and if you go back to, the Crusades and the Hospitaller Knights and stuff like that, these were people that were migrating and you were giving them shelter. I mean, it kind of goes with the whole thing, right?
Right.
But really this just turns out to be, some of these CEOs are making $500,000 a year and
right.
whatnot. So
yeah.
That's a whole nother issue.
They're like the Joel Osteens
Yes.
of immigration. Oh yeah, I'm here for the people. I'm here for the people. Did you see how big my house is?
yeah, that is exactly right.
The jet was so good. I couldn't help but not buy it.
So we've been talking about national. Do we want to jump to local?
Well, I do. So one of the things, we talk a lot about how you can actually make an impact on this stuff, right? What we've been discussing so far, at least in my opinion, are sort of fruits of the labor, right? A lot of people worked hard to win elections in November, and these are the fruits of the labor. We have legislative session coming up in Austin. The stuff that comes out of that, fruits of the labor, work that can still be done. And so at its core, right, if you get down to sort of the core unit of political action, other than the voters, obviously, is the precinct chair.
Oh, the lowest level of elected official.
I don't like to say lowest. I say the core.
The
right?
core.
The beginning.
That's right.
You got to start with the protons and then build out from there,
Grassroots.
and then you've got, a building.
Right. Grassroots. Let's go.
Right. So precinct chairs. All three of us here are precinct chairs for the Republican Party in Dallas County. We've all had different experiences, different ways that we've gone about serving as precinct chairs. And so I kind of wanted to take some time. I think it would be helpful for our viewers, listeners, to kind of talk through, well, what is a precinct chair? So I guess Deborah, I would posit that question to you. Like, what is a precinct chair?
So I'm a precinct chair. Mm-hmm. Can you tell by looking? No. So
I can because I know you.
right. So a precinct chair is a person who helps pass along information. Like, what is our goal as our precinct chairs? To get out the Republican vote. That's the Republican precinct chair's goal. So make the most out of elections. So how do we do that?
Well, let me hold on. Let me take it just a little bit more absolutely fundamental. Like from not what the goal is, but what is a precinct chair?
What is a precinct then? Is really drilling it down.
Okay.
So it's the smallest unit of the Republican Party. It's an area that you live in. So for me, I live over by White Rock Lake. And how many voters, registered voters, not just Republicans, but registered voters are in my area that I would need to help manage them to get to the polls to vote. And that entails a lot of different aspects. So between helping candidates block, walk, or phone bank. For me, if I'm in the grocery store, you're trapped in line with me. And you're going to hear about it.
Oh, no.
I know. So...
I said, we've had different experiences as being precinct chairs.
Right. So, and different people have different skills. And so when you're talking about, what is your skill set? What do you need to bring so that you can be an effective person helping candidates, which is the point, to become elected? And that is because I'm selfish and I want the world to be a better place for me and you guys. Right?
Yeah.
So trying to bring that small area, I can manage a precinct. I can manage that 2,000, 3,000 voters, sometimes less, and getting information to them during an election. That helps a candidate. It helps the neighbors. So we find, are people interested in talking to a precinct chair? Most people don't know what a precinct chair is.
Right.
So when I say, hi, I'm Deborah, I'm your precinct chair, they just look at me like I don't know what that is.
So you do. So just to kind of summarize a little bit of that, right? Whenever you go to vote, you have your different voting districts, right? I'm in this congressional district. I'm in this city council district, what have you. All of those districts are made up of precincts. And it's like a small neighborhood-sized
Dallas?
geographic region where in that, you accumulate all those and you have your districts that you're voting in.
Dallas County has 798 precincts.
Right.
Within Dallas County.
Right.
That's a lot of precincts.
And then within that, for each of those precincts, you have a representative for the different political parties, and those people are your precinct chairs.
Roughly how many homes are in your precinct?
That's a good question. I could look that up.
No, just like roughly, like ballpark.
Roughly, probably in the there's a lot of apartments.
Sure.
So 4,000 to 5,000
Doors.
doors to knock on. So that's
Wow.
people who are not
Yeah.
even registered though.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and more apartments because
Right.
we've got Forward Dallas with condensing living.
Yeah, and that's a big precinct. Like as far as precincts, some precincts have. Well, I know like there's a few that have like 2 or 3 doors, but obviously it's like an industrial area. But like some are, a few hundred doors or something like
So
that.
to really be a precinct worth having a precinct chair, you need to have at least 100 registered voters. That's our
Yeah.
thinking. Otherwise, maybe I just work a couple of blocks in a precinct that doesn't have a chair, who doesn't have enough homes to really bother with.
Yeah.
So how many Democrat chairs are there out of that 798? Currently, I counted today, there are 384 Democrat chairs. We have 272 Republican chairs. So it's not enough. I
Right.
mean, even if you say
And of those, so
Some overlap.
It's actually not as bad
go-
as I thought.
Yeah. Well, so going back to like the precinct chair position itself. So how would you do if somebody said, "Well, what is your job as a precinct chair?" Deborah, you're telling me you're a precinct chair. What is it that you do?
the duties of a precinct chair. So you're a county executive committee member. So we vote on things, censure.
And that's for the party.
That's for the party.
So the Republican Party's
Party.
executive committee.
Right, executive committee. And so we do have not just working in our neighborhood with our neighbors, we work elections. So if you're talking about election integrity and you're worried about it, do you know how elections actually go? Do you know, is it just something you've heard? Have you seen something not go well, like on election day when every third voter, I had to reboot my machine so I could check people in?
And if you're watching right now and you have questions about that, go back to the episode we had with Tammy Brown Rodriguez.
Right.
Because we went into great detail about how elections are actually performed, different ways that you can be involved with elections, things along those lines.
Right. So I just this past Saturday took a recertification class for volunteer deputy registrar. So now I can I've took an oath, register voters, because we can't have voters if we don't have registered voters.
Right.
Right. So you can't just show up and say, well, but I want to.
So you're a member of the executive committee for the party that you're
Right.
precinct chair for.
Right.
You're helping to conduct the elections.
Right.
You're helping to register voters.
Right.
And then you're interacting with the voters that are in your precinct.
And the candidates, because if you're knocking on doors and saying, hey, there's an election coming up next Saturday, these are the locations you can vote at.
There's not.
No, there's not. But if you were saying,
I freaked out too. I was like, oh my
no,
gosh.
I think it's April 22nd to the 29th is early voting, and then May 2nd?
May 3rd, I think, is election day.
Okay, is election day. That's the next election, city council.
Yeah. These are Dallas County Municipal and
Dallas
School Board
County.
election dates.
So it is coming up. So it's having some of that knowledge to share with people. But you need to know about the candidates, because then they say, well, who are you voting for or why? And so it's not that you have to know everything, but it's really nice when you meet a candidate. Kyle, what are you running for? And
Yeah.
tell me something about yourself so that I have an idea what I should tell people and why I would vote for you.
Yeah.
So it's seeking out information. So when you think about who would make a good precinct chair, people who have time, and you don't have to do everything. You don't have to go to conventions. You don't have to work every election. Take off a week or 2 weeks, like this past election in November, to work early voting. You don't have to do all the things.
Right.
What can you do? Anything you can do moves the party along.
Yeah.
So for me, the duties would start with educating yourself. What do you have time to learn about? And then share that information. Do I have time for local politics? Do I have time for national politics? How much research can I do so that I know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you decide what's your limit right now. If you have kids, what's your limit? If you can't drive in the dark, what's your limit? You can't go to meetings. So we have so many so many opportunities to learn Republican groups. Oh, like, what's that one? A Better Dallas? So with the Better Dallas, as a member of a Better Dallas, I've always appreciated that we're going to have a list of candidates on our website because those are hard to find.
Right.
People don't get the paper anymore. How are you going to find out? So it is something that I think people rely on us to know who the candidates are, something about them, if we're going to be precinct chairs. And we're not just nice people who don't know much.
And one thing I do want to say is that if you don't know what you have time for or what your talent is, the group is full of people with random talents. Some of it is their actual job, like, lawyer, you help out candidates, you're very savvy on the topics. You can help them build their platforms or things that kind of maneuver through different topics and things like that. I don't know. My unique strength is I had a free couch and a camera.
Hey.
So
I would definitely say it's more than that. But
I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, we can do a podcast and start getting local candidates on and giving them a voice. So if you have something that you think you're good at, or you want to find something that you're good at, there's something to do for sure.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to, now that we've talked about like some of the different areas, some of the different responsibilities, some of the different ways that a precinct chair can be involved. So, Deborah, how long have you been a precinct chair?
Knocking on 5 years.
Kyle, how long have you been a precinct chair?
Less than a year.
So, I want to kind of talk about that, right? So, like, Deborah, you've been through a few election cycles. You've had an opportunity to be involved in a bunch of different things. Kyle, on the other hand, is still a relatively new precinct chair. Mm-hmm. So, I wanted to kind of give people an understanding of, like, that progression. So, first, let's talk about elections, right? So, Kyle, what have you been able to do to help with working elections as a precinct chair?
As a precinct chair specifically, this is my first one. I think I got confirmed 2 months before the actual election. And so essentially not much time to do anything other than door knock, leave hangers, door hangers, and just try to connect with the Republican voters in my neighborhood. I wasn't trying to convert anybody at the door that are registered Democrats or anything like that, but just try to get the vote out. I mean, that's what every election comes down to, is just turning out the base. If we turn out the base, we're going to do great.
Are you keeping track of the people that you talk to? So are you keeping an Excel spreadsheet? And so you downloaded data, the list of registered Republican hard R's, right? People who do vote Republican, they do go vote. And you talked to them first, and then did you talk to weak R's as well, or swing?
When I downloaded it onto Google, and I made a Google map.
Good. So
I can keep track, because every year it seems like we change apps. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be here for a little bit longer than the next app. But I was doing hard R's, weak R's, and then I would make a judgment call walking down the street on swing, and I was like, okay, they have an American flag. I feel okay.
Flag at the door. Let's
flag
go.
At the door, reef on the door. There's these giveaways that you kind of get a good vibe about, and so I was wrong a couple times, and that's like no big deal, and not every house votes one way.
Right.
So
husband and wife could be separate.
If I could, just real quick to kind of give some context to the viewers, we're talking about hard R's and weak R's and all of that. So when you're working campaigns, there are different categorizations, different gradings for voters. So you'll have somebody that's considered a hard R. Well, what that means is they're modeled as a Republican voter, and the hard part doesn't mean that they're like an ultra-conservative Republican voter. What it means is that they are somebody that is highly likely to show up to vote. And so then you'll have the same thing on the other end of the spectrum for a hard Democrat, and then you'll have your weak Republican, weak Democrat. Again, people that are modeled to be in each party. It doesn't mean that they're moderate or they're, whatever. It just means, they might only show up every, 2 out of 4 elections or 1 out of 4 elections.
Yeah.
And then you've got your swing voters. Usually your swing voters are people that you have no idea where they are on the spectrum of voting. They don't vote in primaries. You don't know where they are, and they also have a pretty inconsistent voting history. Because usually when somebody develops a consistent voting history, you can sort of model where their party is. But I won't name names, but I have a very close friend that him and his wife, staunch Republican voters, right? Nightly Fox viewers, live and die by Greg Gutfeld in the evening, right?
They have heart problems.
And they buy gold.
Okay.
And so, big time Republicans, but they never vote in primaries, right? They are general election Republicans. And so these people get modeled as swing voters. So when we're talking about these different terms, that's what we mean when we're working campaigns.
A big part of being a precinct chair is identifying voters, finding out who is not registered. Oh, why should I vote? Okay, can I have money then? Because you don't seem to care where it goes. Just give it to me. So trying to figure out what the issues are that would drive them to go vote. You know, do you have children? What do you think about education? Public safety? Have you had a problem with crime in your neighborhood? Do you think that that's important to you enough to do some research and go figure out what would make the change that would make you safer?
And so just the connective tissue with what Kyle was talking about. Kyle's talking about get out the votes, things he did the 2 months before he's getting people to vote. You're talking about stuff that you probably have been doing months, if not, a year before the election, as far as is identifying voters, registering them, doing all that stuff.
Well, and part of when you're block walking, and you see people who are walking past you with their dog, and they wonder what you're doing in their neighborhood. And so I stop them and say, hey, I'm a precinct chair. And I don't always say I'm a Republican precinct chair. I say, do you vote? Are you registered? What do you think about that election coming up? I don't always start with where do you buy ammo? So, trying to identify what kind of voter you are. But trying to engage people, I think, not with, what do you think about abortion? I don't want to identify people that way right away. Oh my gosh. More generically, what is important to you in your area? What would take you to the polls?
Right.
So some of it's just lack of time for them, lack of interest. People say things like, when you knock on doors and they're like, oh, I don't follow any of that.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Can you not?
So in that situation, I just said, because I think it was Prosperity for America.
Americans for Prosperity.
Yes, they gave out, it's dyslexia right there, but they gave the voting thing.
Yes.
I said, okay, cool. Well, please show up and vote. Here's how to vote.
Right.
And then that was it.
It's as simple as that.
That was it. I just said,
Right.
have a great day. I didn't really do, even to the hard R's, unless they clearly wanted to engage with me.
Right.
I kept it short and sweet because, honestly, one, I always tell my kids, do not ever answer the door. Mm-hmm. Don't answer the door for anyone, especially a man, especially some dude with a beard. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that.
Do you block walk alone?
I took my kids a couple times, but I realized they couldn't keep up.
Right.
One thing, I think some of these precincts are pretty, because I have a fairly large one as well. Mm-hmm. It's the line. It's 3,000 line items, so each home could be 2 or 3 people.
Right.
But it's a lot of houses to walk. That's why you got to get block captains, kind of break it down. But you're only going to find those by getting out and finding people that really want to get involved.
Okay, so I want to pause.
Okay.
Because we're talking terms here that we want to make sure people are aware of.
Yeah.
So first, we've been talking about block walking. So for the uninitiated, somebody that's just new to this, what is block walking?
So when I'm going door to door with information that candidates have given me, door hangers or information about them, because you can't remember everything, and the salient points are going to be listed. What are they really trying to change with their position, whether it's Congress, city council, what could it be? So if you are really educating all of the voters, how best can you do it? So we go to the GOP data portal. There's a list that you can download of registered voters. You need permission to do this. You can't just anybody willy-nilly go and do this. Actually, you can go to the Dallas County Elections Department, and there is a list that most people can download to find out who's registered. And then Kyle was saying that there's a map, and there's some apps that you can use that you can designate what route would be easiest or best to take, and which of those houses are you going to stop at. So you have something prepared, maybe that says, I have a little flyer of my own. It's just forward to a page. My name is Deborah Arnett. Here's my email address. I'm a precinct chair. You live in precinct 1059. If I'm block walking, it's generally my precinct. If I help in Kyle's, I'm not going to say you live in 1059. But this is how your VUID card, your unique voter registration number, you have this precinct for this, school board, city council, Congress, Senate district, different things. So it's on your VUID card. And that's what you can take with you to vote when you're showing that you are registered. So registered people get this in the mail every year. And if you don't have yours, you need to look that up, but that's something else.
Your VUID card is what most people call your voter registration card.
Right.
So, Kyle, you were talking about block captains. What's a block captain?
That that would be someone inside your precinct that wants to help out. So it would be really cool if I could find a block captain on the other side of the precinct. I kind of live on the most west side. If I could find someone, because my precinct actually cuts over a major road. If I could find someone over there it's essentially a different community. If I could find someone over there, that would be great. They probably know more neighbors, right? I don't know anyone over there. They know more people. They're with the HOA over there. That would be immensely helpful to spread the workload because, it is what it is. But I didn't get to everyone in my precinct. Not even because there's just so many doors.
And they don't answer.
I did leave something at more than half the doors. Mm-hmm. And it was cool because I can see that the Democratic precinct chair was leaving stuff behind. But our flyer was better and it hung on the door, so theirs was just a square thing like trash that was on the thing, which I felt was like it didn't look that great. But
well, let me pause there because actually you're hitting on some of the stuff that I want to talk to each of you about.
Yeah.
So we're now we know what block walking is, block captains. For people that are wanting to do this, for people that are already precinct chairs that are looking to develop, I'm interested to hear from both of you about best practices. How does it work for you when you're at the door, right? So, like Kyle, I want to start with you because I block walked with both of you, Kyle most recently, and
yeah,
I think you have sales experience, right?
Yeah.
So with that background, like, how do you approach somebody at the door when you're doing the block walk? Like, what does that look like on a play-by-play?
Right. For the record, my sales managers in the past have hated me because I don't follow a script. I don't sell. I just engage in a conversation. And so, first off, it's what you're wearing. I try to be fairly clean cut, trim up my beard, slick my hair a little bit, and then I'm wearing like as much red, white, and blue as I can. It's election season. People, generally speaking, will know that there's going to be people coming by. If they don't want to engage at the door, I don't even want them to answer. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
If they can look through their door and see there's some guy there that's about to pitch me on one way or another, they definitely don't want that. Cool. Then don't. They already kind of know what they're about to get. Open the door. Hey, how's it going? I'm here with the local Republican Party. Are you consider voting this election coming up? Yes or no, and then I take it from there. Yes? Okay, cool. Did you have an idea who you're voting for? Yes. Most people just say yes. Okay, cool. Did you have any questions about like any politicians in general? No. Is the next 90% no. You're going to get one word answer like, okay, cool. Well, some things that you might not have heard of is all the proposals, not proposals,
Yeah, we had charter amendments.
Propositions.
There it is. Okay, well, you might not have heard about all the propositions
18.
that the county or the city of Dallas is gonna have. Here are some of the things, and I just wanted to drop this guide for you if you're interested in checking them out, and you can bring this into the poll because you can't bring your phone into the voting booth. And it's generally a very short conversation at the door. So if you follow that very brief script, towards the end they'll start to engage because they'll feel a little bit more guard let down. But I felt like if you come in heavy at the beginning, like, who are you voting for?
Right.
Like, dude, you just interrupted their day. You're at their door and you're like, it's
right.
like a shakedown all of a sudden. Like, yeah, you have their data that they probably voted in the past Republican, but one, the data's not 100%, pretty accurate. But also, maybe they did vote for Donald Trump and now they hate them. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know. Maybe they were George Bush people and this is the first time, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, so that's me. What about you?
When I go, I'm engaging as well.
Yeah.
So I'll say, hey, my name is Deborah. I'm the precinct chair. That's a position that just helps you find out where to vote, when to vote. And I say, do you vote early or do you vote on election day?
That's a good one.
Where do you vote? You know, like I vote over at, Martha Turner Riley or wherever, Lockwood Library. Where do you vote? Oh, I don't vote. Oh, have you ever voted? Are you going to vote again? What's the most difficult thing that you're dealing with within the city or the county or in Texas or whatever right now? I don't go in and say, I'm with the Clement campaign, and are you voting for Chris?
No.
I would not say that because I don't know them generally. The people
Yeah.
I do know, well, I've already talked to on the phone or when I've seen them. I'm not knocking on their door. So these are people I don't know. And if they start to speak to me, if they are engaging, those are my potential block captains
Yeah.
or any kind of help. I do say, this is a lot of information. If you'd like me to send you information by email, I can do that. I can, as we get closer to the election and the sample ballot comes out 30 days in advance, Dallas County Elections Department has a sample ballot. And if you're a registered voter, you can look this up on their website. And I can either give you that link, I can text it to you now, which gets me their phone number, or I can email it to you, the link. Or when the ballot comes up and I can just send you the ballot. If you're in my precinct, it's going to be my ballot too. So I can send that to you. What would you like? So I look like a helper instead of a person who's intruding.
Well, it's way better than mine.
No, everybody has a good thing they're doing.
That was, to be fair, that was my first time around, but I can definitely see the value of getting their contact and being able to, engage with them low key, not having to essentially fresh door knock them every single cycle.
And I have started out with, I'm your neighbor, Deborah. I live over on. So it's not like I'm somebody who's paid to come and do this. I see the value in that too, but I let them know I'm your neighbor.
Right. I mean, I'm not always the best block walker because I'm a big guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the person that you 100% don't answer the door for.
I definitely would not answer my door for you.
Right. So, but I've generally found when I'm block walking that it's best. I think you both kind of described this. You're there to help. I'm not there to sell you on something. I'm not here to push anything on you. I'm here to help, and I'm here to help you engage in as much as you want to. Right? If you're super excited, hey, would you like a yard sign? Hey, just so you know, you can go sign up for whatever here. You can be a block captain. You can, you handle your street for or whatever the case may be. But approaching it with the I'm trying to help is way more effective than some of these, with all due respect, terrible scripts that campaigns will try to give you to go sit there at the door and read off to people.
It's a wild, long script.
Well,
there's no way.
And some of it you're reading from your phone because
Right.
it's an app on your phone. Hi, I'm with the so-and-so campaign, and they've already drifted away.
Right.
You can't. I don't.
And I get it.
I go back
because-
later and put in information, but I don't read from my phone the script.
Right. Well, I mean, look, at Better Dallas, we do a lot of block walking. We train block walkers, all that sort of thing. But when we organize block walks, I mean, you've seen this, I'm sure, a ton. You have a lot of people that are insecure about doing it that want a script. They want something.
By your 20th time
Right.
you read it, you don't need it.
Yeah.
So I do start people out with it.
Right.
And I don't, as we go to the door, go, yeah, pull up the script. We go over it first if I'm taking people with me. Which are the salient points? What do you have to hit? What would be best to make use of their time and your time?
Yeah.
So by the time, it's like phone banking, which is sort of like, it dials 5 people. It's another app on your phone, and the candidates choose which app they're going to use, Campaign Sidekick or whichever one, and it'll dial 5 numbers or more at the same time, depending on what you have, and you don't know who's going to answer. So you don't know who you're talking to, and you have got to engage those people, and they have a script.
Right.
So by the time your 20th person has actually answered the phone and you've spoken to them at all, you know what to say, what people want to listen to. So it is about practice because you want to get the candidate to be voted for. and you want the voter to feel, I don't really like this word, but empowered
Right.
to make a difference, because every vote does count.
So, my experience with phone banking, I'm glad you brought that up. So, another thing is a precinct chair volunteer you can do. I don't feel like phone banking works for the big campaigns when you're doing that on the app. Where phone banking works is when you're calling the people in your precinct.
Yes.
Like when my number when I'm actually using my phone and I'm making a call and it shows my name and number there when somebody picks it up on their cell phone, I find that is way more effective. I get way more answers from my neighborhood when I'm just calling down my list
Right.
than when I'm using some app to make calls out of.
Well, and with the app, you can leave a message, and it doesn't show your phone number. So it's never your phone number that's going to show up when you're calling anywhere in Texas
Right.
if you're working on, like, the Ted Cruz campaign. So they don't know your number. They don't have access to it. So, and you don't know the number that really it's being called from, because it just rotates around. You don't know who you're calling either. So I can leave a message. Hi, it's Deborah, your neighbor, over on the road.
Right.
And if you have any questions, call me back. If you don't want this, or I can text people too, if I have their phone numbers, and we get this from the GOP data portal. A lot of the phone numbers are still okay. They're still useful, even though some of them are landlines still that just
Right.
never got updated. But I can leave a message, or I can text and say, if you don't want this, then stop. And right now we have a program called Project Broadcast, where you can spend $100 within the Republican Party to Project Broadcast and get up to 2,500 texts to send out information.
Yeah.
So the text would be something that people can, while they're going, who's that from? They've already read half of it. Before they delete it, they've already read half of it.
And there's a lot of programs that you can use to send out texts, or, you know, if you want to, you could text from your own phone.
Right.
Most times people don't want to do that because they, you know, I don't know what you have to pay for texts or if there's any plans to even do that anymore. But one of the things that I wanted to circle back on a little bit, because you talked about it when you're leaving voicemails, is when you're interacting with voters in your neighborhood, it's so helpful to be able to say, hi, I'm your neighbor from, you know, hi, my name's Chris. I live on blah, blah, blah street. I'm here. And so what I usually do, I try to personalize the relationship of whoever I'm walking for. Right. So I would never say, like, I'm here with the Ted Cruz campaign, or I'm here block walking for Amy Ramsey. I would just say, yeah, my name's Chris. I live on Wakefield. My friend Amy Ramsey
Yes.
is running for, you know, the Texas House. And, you know, I'd like to talk with you about her, or, you know, I'd like to ask for your vote, or we're asking for your vote, something like that. But just, hey, here's who I am to you. I'm your neighbor. I live on this street.
Relationships.
Here's who I am to this person I'm talking about, right? I'm not somebody that's being paid $15 an hour to go knock on doors.
Right. And sounds plastic.
Right.
Right. So it's about, I do agree, it's about relationships. When I say, my friend, you know, Amy decided to run, I'm helping her. So I want to tell you all about her.
Right.
So some of that excitement leaches out. And why do you like her? Well, let me tell you.
Right.
So I think it does make a big difference.
So
Personalized.
outside of, and Kyle, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to do this yet as a precinct chair, but Deborah, outside of the realm of active campaigning and block walking and doing that sort of stuff, what do you do to keep your precinct informed, or what do you do to reach out to your precinct sort of when you don't have an election going on?
Election cycles, I think for some people seem so far away, apart from each other. But last November, when I was working elections, I thought, oh my gosh, we got to get this all in gear again before spring with city council elections. Made me take a breath over Christmas, and we'll get going again. So
Yeah.
keeping track of the election, or the voter data, who am I crossing out? Because you have to go back to your Excel spreadsheet and, oh, okay, that person moved. Oh, I saw somebody move into that house down there. I don't wait for a week before elections to go door knocking or when sample ballots are out. I want to go introduce myself first. So right now it's, if you're trapped in line with me at whatever store, if I'm there, you're in my precinct, grocery store, Starbucks, whatever. And I don't push it. I'm not, really making too much of it. Just a light announcement. Hey,
you're not shoving a QR code in people's faces?
no QR codes. I'm here if you need me more. And every time they see me, if you're in the grocery store, you will have seen me. So more familiarization. And so updating my Excel spreadsheet. And I keep track who's got a flag.
Yeah.
Right? The dog's name is Rocco. 3 kids. One's going to Jesuit.
Is that a Rocco's Modern Life reference?
So, because you do want to personalize things, and
Yeah.
you want them to think that they're regular people like you. I'm a regular person, and I just need you to help us all by going to vote.
What if you're somebody like me that's not a regular person?
Oh, you
that's
are?
just sort of a weird. No, I don't know. So Kyle, with Deborah was talking a little bit earlier about voter registration or registering voters.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've been involved with yet?
No, I have gone to the training.
The VDR, Volunteer
VDR,
Deputy Registration.
So no, I've only registered family members.
Okay.
So I haven't. I would definitely is something I'd like to do. By the time I was door knocking, it was obviously too late to register
Yes.
anybody to vote.
30 days ahead, it has to be the last cutoff.
Yeah, but I think that is something in the wheelhouse for a Better Dallas, to set up some events to do voter registration. I know we talked about it a lot last year, but seemed like the season caught up with us pretty quick.
Yeah. So Deborah, you've registered lots of people to vote.
So
how would you encourage Kyle? What are some of the things that you would recommend to a new precinct chair like Kyle to do?
So some people like to go to an event. It's something that even Esmeralda Garcia, who works at the Dallas County Elections Department, teaches this class, the Volunteer Deputy Registrar class. It's a 45-minute, hour-long class held down on round table at their office, their headquarters. And it's free. You don't have to pay for the training. They give you all the supplies that you would need. And some of that is the registration cards. So the white registration card. So if I'm at a party or wherever, and someone says, "Oh, I moved," and I hear "moved," they need to update their registration. So I say, "Oh, I heard you say you moved."
I've seen this in real life. This is not an exaggeration.
I do.
I've seen Deborah hear something from across the room and like perk up and be like, "Oh." Reach into her bag and pull out a voter registration
card. So because they fill it out themselves, and I say fill it out, I'll just check it to make sure it's correct. But you need to mail it yourself. I don't mail those. We're not allowed to.
Right.
So it's knowing those things, and that those are for Dallas County residents. So if I say, "Oh, you're in Collin County," you can go to the post office in Collin County, and you can pick up a card for your county.
Yeah.
What
Each
day are
county's
you going to
different.
do that? And so trying to get some commitment. What post office do you stop at? Do you know the libraries have? And would it be more
need a ride?
convenient? Would it be more convenient
I
for you to
don't
go to the
go to the
library
post office, Deborah.
or the post office? So, to pick up that card, because if you can get them to say, "That's a good idea." "Oh, when would you do that?" You have until this day to be able to register, and you don't wait till the last day, because what if it gets stuck in the mail or stuck between 2 flyers or something? So making sure, and within 10 days of you mailing it, you can go to this website. Can I get your email? And I'll send you the website, the link to you check and see if they received your registration instead of waiting for you to get your card.
Yeah.
So there's just all these little tiny steps that you can do as a voter registry.
Hard sell is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing. Is
Hard
sell them,
but it's polite. It's kind.
It's like an abundance of help. I can get you the website. I can get you this. I can get you that.
But people haven't said, "Oh my gosh, can you back up?" No one has told me that.
Well, because you're registering them to vote, right? You're not pushing an agenda.
I
You're
don't
not
need
asking
money
them for
from them.
money, right? So
Well, eventually we'll ask, but yeah.
Yeah. So and that is, one of the things that I like to do is I monitor my new movers.
Yes.
Right. I try to check every month or so for new people that have moved into the neighborhood.
Yes.
And make sure to go talk to them and get them registered under the auspice. Hey, I'm registering you to vote. When you register to vote, where are you going to be? Try
Right.
to figure that sort of thing out, and be as helpful as I can on that front. So stepping away from the interactions with voters and voting and things along those lines, I want you to sort of quickly talk a little bit about I guess, sort of the administrative side of being a precinct chair, right? You're a part of the Republican Executive Committee
For 2 years.
for 2 years.
And then you need to renew.
What is that? What is the Republican Executive Committee, and what does it do?
So we meet generally, we're required to meet at least once a quarter, 4 times a year. We meet more often than that. We don't meet every month. We didn't meet during Christmas. They had a Christmas party. If there's an election and we have 2 weeks of early voting and then election day, we may not have a meeting that month. But it's generally the third Monday of every month, and we're rotating where we meet so that it's convenient for some of the people some of the time instead of a few people all of the time. And getting to know the other precinct chairs. How do you do this? How do you do this? Did that work for you? What do you think about these candidates? Have you met them? So it's a chance to get together, and precinct chairs being part of the executive committee, it makes it sound fancy or official, and it really is just a good business organization. How do we train people?
Well, and the executive committee is a thing, right? So
Yes.
you have the Dallas County Republican Party, or whatever county you'll have your county Republican Party,
Right.
And generally, the executive committee is made up of the precinct chairs in that county,
The backbone.
and then also whatever officers you have, a county chairman, a vice chair, secretary, treasurer, things like that.
Right, and we have many committees. So precinct chair recruitment, candidate recruitment, resources, training. I'm on the training committee, and the resource and the resolutions committee. So trying to be part of this, figuring out what's needed and what skills do I have that I might be able to help with making things smoother within the party. The application process. There, you actually have to apply. You just can't be like, oh, there's an opening, I'll take it. You figuring out what precinct you're in. There's 2 places that you can go and see. One, to see if there is a precinct chair. And before that, what precinct am I in? So people don't know. You can put in your address, you can put in your name, your date of birth, and your information will pop up if you're registered. If you're not registered, then you put in your address and your precinct will show up. So trying to figure those things out and to apply. And it's not just they'll take anybody.
Right.
So there is an actual criteria. You need to be over 18, a registered voter. They
took
prefer
me.
that you actually have voted, so you must have voted.
Yeah. Once or
And
twice.
I really want them to look for younger people. Like, do you have computer skills? Can you read your emails? Do you know how to text? And that sounds funny to a lot of people, I'm sure, but when I talk to people and say, hey, have you gotten our county chair's Monday message? No. Have you looked? Let me show
Right.
you where to look. Have you checked your spam? Let's go there. Let's put in the address. And so some of it is just easier for people who are used to this every day as part of business. And I think you need to not be shy exactly, but able to talk to people
Sure.
with some assurance. So,
So you talked about the different committees, things along those lines, that the county party, those sort of functions. When you talk about meetings, like, what are those meetings like? What is a precinct chair going to do at a executive committee meeting?
So generally our county chair comes up with a message, something that he thinks is important, something that's going on right now. And I don't know, have you ever been to an Amway meeting? That's kind of old timey, but everybody would come away excited. Okay, we're going to do this month. I can't wait until next month's meeting and see who was the best Amway salesperson. So it's kind of re-energizing to hear the message from our county chair. And then we get a report for finances, the treasurer's report. We have committee reports. And so how is the business of this going on? If we get closer to state conventions, precinct convention, Senate district convention, state convention, national convention, which is a whole other thing. We might have to have a separate talk about that.
In time. That's 2026 talk.
That's right. But planning for all of that takes time too. So learning about it and then planning for it before you actually go do it. Legislation, tracking legislation. So we may have speakers come in to talk about legislation. We also talk to candidates. Candidates are allowed to come to every meeting as long as they file their paperwork, and we can get to know them. So we have candidates now that won't even be voted on until 26. So District 30. So I know people who are getting their act together early.
Didn't wait long.
Thank you.
Did with you talk about like candidates. Can anybody go to an executive committee meeting?
Guests are allowed. There may be closed sessions. And of course, guests cannot vote. Don't be raising your hand when they say who is for this. They mean which precinct chairs are for this, which parts of the executive committee are for this. So if we were going to censure, I don't know, like Dade Phelan for something like having Democrat committee chairs, that would be something that we would discuss. We'd listen to a resolution that the resolution committee had put together, and then the executive committee would vote on that. So it's not that the county chair decides everything. We are the grassroots. We are the executive committee. The county chair guides our meeting. So it's a lot to pay attention to. But I think for guests to come and figure out what's a precinct chair, what are the issues that y'all are dealing with, how can I get excited about it too and help block captains,
Yeah.
right?
So Kyle, how many of these meetings have you been able to go to?
So I've only been to two, I think, two or three. Hasn't been that many. We didn't have one in December.
Right.
I think I picked it up in either September or October. So right.
What as a new precinct chair?
Yeah. So
What's your impression of the meetings, or you know what did Deborah describe them on what they could be for? Like, what's been your experience attending the meetings?
So my first impression was it was really cool because obviously a lot of like-minded people in the same room. The second thing it made me think of, and this is just naturally me, I'm like, oh wow, everyone else is doing a lot. I'm not doing enough. Like I immediately
It takes a minute. It takes a minute.
You know, everyone's like, no, we want to propose this, you know, whatever to send up to the state house or whatever. And I'm like, oh wow, that's what we're doing here. Jeez. So it was really good. A lot of people had really good ideas. There's also, and everyone wasn't all in agreement too. It was kind of good to have the banter go back and forth. So it was fairly well organized. It's a great place to meet people, but ultimately I think if we continue to go to enough of them, we'll be able to kind of find your group, find people that have the same interest in you, and you can bounce ideas off of each other and things of that nature.
So it's required that you attend meetings. If you miss 4 meetings in a row, you will get a talk to. Is this something you really want to do? Perhaps you want to do it later. We're going to have somebody else come in who can actually come to meetings. Because if we're voting on something, it is important to attend. We want your 2 cents. You know, if you don't agree, you know, it's run by Robert's Rules of Order at the bottom and the Republican Party of Texas rules at the top. So there's a lot of in between. So it's about learning how to follow along and how to interject appropriately.
Yeah.
And we want to hear from people. I want to hear from people. I want to live and grow every day. Learn. So I would recommend to people who come as guests, think about, is there a Republican Party precinct chair I can help? Or could I be the precinct chair? If we all work together, we can make this happen. But if we all think it's somebody else's job and we just sit back and complain, I take issue with that.
So if you were to, how would you pitch somebody that's watching this tomorrow on Wednesday? They're kind of interested in being a precinct chair. What's your pitch to them? Like, how would you sell somebody on you should take the plunge and become a precinct chair?
If they are brand new to, I just found out what a precinct chair is. Where is my precinct? So I would recommend that you gather some more information by coming to every month. I have a training on the 4th Tuesday at 5:30 at the Republican Party headquarters. That's at Forest and Central, where the Office Depot is. We're upstairs, and Suite 240. And Kyle, you've been to the trainings that we've had. So we cover a lot of very basic information about the websites that we use, how to look at them, how to find out more information. And when you come to these trainings, you think, oh, I could do that. Oh, that makes sense. What day do we do that? Where are we going next? So it's not that you have to be able to do everything all at once. And Kyle, you were saying, you could do more. You're going to learn to do more, and you'll do more.
Yeah.
And
So
I will shamelessly plug you and Tammy Brown Rodriguez conduct those trainings. It's a joint training between the county party and A Better Dallas.
A Better Dallas.
A Better Dallas provides lots of trainings. We have since we started. I don't know. Gosh, I would be interested to ask Tammy how many people she thinks that we've trained over the last few years.
So we've actually been keeping track, and I don't have the numbers, but I know we had 12 trainings within 6 weeks before last election. And so it's a lot of people coming through.
Yeah.
I would say over 2,000 people came last year.
Oh, wow.
And some of them are repeat. Like,
Yeah.
if you've been to 9 trainings, some of them are about elections, some of them are about volunteer deputy registrar, some of them are how to be a precinct chair, some of them are with the candidates. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's not like you have to do everything. Pick a thing and start with it. Some people cannot block walk. They can't
Right.
be out in the heat. They can't be out in the cold, the rain. People are actually, when it's rainy and cold, they actually open their door more often. What are you doing out here? I'm block walking for a candidate.
I'm gonna wear my "I know what you did last summer" raincoat. See if they answer the door. I'm like, no one answered.
No one answered.
Just don't carry
Yeah,
that little hook
possibly not.
that he had.
Yeah. But I think I would recommend that they get some more information. And it's hard to, you can actually Google how to be a precinct chair in Dallas County. And I bet you would have some good answers pop up.
Kyle, what motivated you to decide to take the step to become a priest? Because you'd been involved in the past, right? I think you'd said you'd volunteered for elections in the past. Like,
Yeah.
What made you decide I want to become a precinct chair?
Yeah, so I did the election clerk, election judge, just 2021. Election was in question, COVID, just all of it. And then, like you said, you're going to learn, and then you're going to want to do more. So, like, okay, well, the election judge thing is cool, but, there's only so much to be done there. And then, like, okay, well, let's kind of go to the next thing and see what that is all about, and see if that's, because you're going to try things, and you're going to realize you're not interested in them, or you're not good at that. So maybe try to find something you do enjoy. It's definitely the long game. You can't sign up for everything. You can't do everything.
That's right.
You can't be
Yeah.
everywhere for everyone.
All the time.
You definitely have to have a balance with it. But I mean that was pretty much it. General Milley. So,
The pardoned General Milley?
yeah, yeah. Well,
That inspired you?
Yes, him back in the day. Yeah, I said I need to get involved because that guy's got to go.
So, Deborah, we could be talking about this for deep into the night, but sort of starting to wrap up, do you have any closing thoughts on, the impact that you think a precinct chair can have? Any stories that you want to tell about impact that you've been able to have as a precinct chair?
So I find it funny or odd that a lot of people think, "Oh, you're great at this," and I think, "No, I'm like low level knowledge. There's so much more that I could still learn, or that I could do more effectively." And I'm working at that. So what I do know, I'm happy to share. And I think that when I walk into the county executive committee meetings, and most people know who I am now. Or I walk into headquarters and people say, "Oh, good, she's here.
Yeah.
Let's ask her." And I'm like, "What do you need to know?" And weirdly, I can either look it up quickly or I already know. And that amazes me. I'm like, how do you, I don't know how I know this. Mm-hmm. So if you're awake and slightly paying attention to all that's going on, you retain part of this, you can be this person too. So we need more people who can answer the questions, know where to look things up. It's not rocket science. I'm not a brain surgeon. So it is not difficult is what I'm saying. But I think when you work elections, as I have, and you're sitting at the table and saying, "May I have your ID, please?" And people say, "Thank you for being here." And I think, "Oh my gosh, thank you for voting."
Yeah.
Because without you, my job is pointless.
Yeah.
You're the reason I'm here. The voter is the reason I'm here doing this and working on election integrity. My eyes are open with every person that walks in. You're going over the machines, anything that's happening, and I have to go, judge, something's happening that
Yeah.
shouldn't be happening.
Right.
That's election integrity. It doesn't have to be some deep, dark secret or something horrible going on with the machinery. It can be minor things. It all adds up. So I think all of the precinct chairs, whatever you do, is more than we'd have if you didn't do it. So
Yeah.
just start.
I think to me, that's the biggest point is it's like any other organization. It's a collection of talent, and there's so much stuff that you can do as a precinct chair, right? I mean, if your passion is data, then you can help provide data for everybody, right? We have a couple of like data nerds that are always doing that for the county party. If your thing is finance, you can help organize the finances. You can help do all that sort of stuff. If your thing is just cleaning, okay, you can come clean the county party office. If your thing is
We actually need that.
event planning, like just anything, like whatever your skill set is.
Canva. Who knows Canva?
Right.
We have flyers that need to be made all the time.
Yeah, who can make
Website
flyers?
use. Come on.
Who can be an editor for newsletters that go out?
Yes.
Whatever it is, like whatever your skill set is, you can bring it to the county party as a precinct chair and have an impact. It's not one of those things like, well, if you sign up to be a precinct chair, you better do this, and this. It's like, no, come and contribute what you have.
We have letter writing campaigns. We're addressing envelopes,
Right.
thousands of envelopes or postcards. So it's a sit down in the air conditioning job. You know, like what can you do today? So if this all sounds like too much and sounds overwhelming, just narrow it down.
That's it.
Take it slow, take a breath, look at one part, come to a training. You don't have to already be a precinct chair to come to my trainings. Come to the executive committee meeting, listen, and like Kyle was saying, like minds, you think, oh, I can talk freely in front of these people.
Yep.
Woohoo!
Oh, that's another great part about it. Yeah. Kyle, did you have any closing thoughts about your experience as a precinct chair that you wanted to add?
I'd say just go and do it. Most precincts are wide open. The party's going to help you out. And in my particular case, the precinct chair wasn't open, but I had stayed in contact with the guy, and he was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm not in a condition right now that I can do it." And so he was like, "Can you step up and do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds
Good job.
Yeah, sounds good, you know." And so it's like you said, every vote counts. We had a couple really close races,
Very close races.
inside of Dallas County, a few thousand votes. And so, let's say we doubled our precinct chair, and each one of those precinct chairs, got 10 extra people to turn out. You're talking about actually moving seats. So that's how the Democratic Party keeps coming up with making this country a 50-50 country when it's really not. It's more like 65-35 or something
Right.
like that. That's how it should be. But they just have they've had for some time a stronger ground game.
Well, this is where Obama's a community organizer, right? I mean, that's where he started and worked his way up to becoming the president. Well, worked, but so no,
He did stuff.
That's a great point. Like, there's if you want to really make sure that you are having the full impact and having voters have the full opportunity to engage in the elections, being a good precinct chair and just letting the people in your neighborhood know when they need to vote and where they can go vote is a big step towards helping them in that direction, helping them along those lines.
Putting out signs,
Yeah.
picking up signs after elections.
Pick up your signs, guys.
Yes, well,
They look like bandit signs
right
now.
away.
Well,
But it's a lot of work.
I will say
It is a lot of work. That's true.
if you
Signs.
want to learn more about being a precinct chair, again, A Better Dallas on a monthly basis, 2 times a month, I think at least, helps the county party put together training for precinct chairs, for volunteers. Go to our website, abetterdallas.com. If you go to our events tab, when we have trainings, they'll be listed there. If you need to RSVP, all that stuff will be on the website. You can also go to dallasgop.org. You go to their events tab, they'll have trainings listed as well. It's usually, like I said, training together. So if you're interested, if you want to know more about it, please do that. It'll take an hour or 2 on a Saturday morning.
Some of them are Zooms
Some of them are Zooms.
during the week in the evening, and some of them are on Saturday mornings. Mine are once a month on a Tuesday evening.
Plenty
And
of
so,
options.
yeah, lots of opportunity for you to learn more, meet people that are doing it so that you have a little bit of a group. Because if you can't tell, we really want you to become precinct chairs.
too.
We really want you to come be involved. We want to have your voices. We want to have the full scope of who Republican voters are represented within our county party. But we also want to have the full talent of the Republican community out there helping to elect better officials, helping to instill better legislation, just helping to improve what we're doing as a whole in our county, our state, our city, our nation. So please become precinct chairs. I'm not going to beg you, but I'm going to get pretty close to begging you.
It affects us all. And
does.
no plan is a plan. It's a plan not to. So plan to help and follow through.
That's a great point. Well, with that, Deborah, thank you so much for taking your time to join us tonight.
It's been great.
Again, Deborah helped to found A Better Dallas. She was there on day one. She was, doing all of this grassroots, all this groundwork stuff. It was always remarkable when we would have our meetings and Deborah would talk about all of the things that she did the month before. And if you felt like you weren't doing enough, all of us were just like, holy smokes. So thank you so much for what you do in our county, for our party, and just for our community as a whole. But with that, thank you for joining in for another A Better Conversation. We hope you'll join us again next week. Record on Tuesday, release on Wednesday. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. You can go to our website, abetterdallas.com. You can also find us on Facebook and on Instagram, soon to be on X. And appreciate your time. And I hope this was informative. And I hope this was fun.
Definitely.
And I hope we can see you again.